I'm here to stand on my soapbox and proclaim that to the world.
On this show.
This is the hottest show on the planet right now.
What's the debate?
Ain't no debate.
All right, what's going on? We are live. What's going on, YouTube family? Thank you for joining us. You are joining the Vulcan Soapbox. I am your gracious host, Enos, and we got a good panel that I'm about to introduce that's going to, have some interesting conversations. Interesting conversation with us. So let me start off with Christine. How you doing?
I'm well. How are you?
I'm doing fine. And do you want to say anything to our viewers before we start? Anything
Nope.
about yourself? All right. Glad to have you.
Right into it.
Say again.
I said I'm ready to get into it.
Yeah, that's weird. So let's bring in Patty. Thanks for coming back. What's up, Patty?
Hi, doing good. Thanks for having me back.
Yes, man. Then we got my guy Derek. What's going on, man?
What it do? How's everybody, man? I hope we have a awesome time today.
Yeah, man. Me too, man. And Crystal, what's going on? Welcome back.
Hey guys, good evening. Thank you very much for asking me to come back. I'm excited to discuss with you guys tonight.
Yes. And we have, got many names for this gentleman, known as Logos. I call him Advocate. We call him Advocate. Let me introduce Vulcan. What's going on, bro?
What's going on, everybody? I'm excited for the show today. So I'm going to go ahead and introduce the show here so we can get right into it. This show is called Are You Spiritually Attractive or Ugly? It's the Vulcan Soapbox. Y'all know how we do. We want to be critical. We want to ask good questions. We want to give everybody a safe space to be able to express their opinion. Like, subscribe, share. Even though you're on a panel, if you have a moment to just share, if you're on Facebook or whatever, want to share it if you can see it. Other than that, let's go ahead and get into it. We got a lot to cover today.
Yes. Can you hear me? Microphone check 1 2 1 2.
We hear you.
All right. So yes. Voca says safe space. We have returning guest Crystal, Patty. That's just to show y'all this is a safe space. So we definitely welcome diversity of thinking. So be welcome to come in with any of your ideas or thoughts, and be sure to email any topics y'all want us to go over. Email us at vocasoapbox.com.
Hey, you see that someone said connect you on the panel.
Karen Knox. Okay. I send you a link, Karen Knox. All right, so let's go ahead and get into the show. The first question I have for the panel. Y'all know what happened last week. This clip went viral. Platinum gospel singing artist Marvin Sapp. First question I want to ask y'all. In light of Marvin Sapp's situation, oh man, what is the proper way to act and give in the church? Let me start off with Christine.
Well, hold on. Let me just remind the audience real quick. So if everybody that hasn't seen it, or if you have seen it, just a fresh reminder, what happened was Marvin Sapp was preaching at a conference. Sorry, I don't know if he was preaching at the conference or not. I think he did give a message. I'm not sure, but he was at a conference. And during the conference, he asked the ushers to close the doors, and he asked 1,000 people in the audience to give $20. Then he asked people behind him that were sitting in the ministry chairs to give $100, and people who were 1,000 people online to also give $20. And he wanted it to be a total of $40,000. And he insisted that the ushers shut the door, and he let everybody know you're not going to do nothing right now anyway, but go get something to eat. So we need everybody to contribute to this $40,000. So if you haven't seen that, check it out. That video has already been out for a long time. It went viral. And then he recently went on the Ricky Smiley radio show, and he covered what happened and why he did what he did. So yes, that is the context. Feel free to correct me if I missed something. And all right, Enos is back on you.
Yeah, so what's the proper way to give in church? What is the proper way to give in church? I'm going to start with Christine.
In light of what happened, yes.
Well, The proper way to give is from your heart, not being held hostage. It's from your heart, and I believe that the Holy Spirit will lead you to give. You don't have to hold people hostage for them to give. Not everyone has to give either.
Okay. All right. So let me bring in Patty Rodriguez.
I agree. I agree with Christine. That is definitely, we kept hearing it over and over again. Those of us who are following it, that, a cheerful giver and that. So most definitely, if you have it to give. I'd like to think that he just kind of got a little, carried away. Maybe or just got ahead of himself and just shut the doors and that kind of thing. But yeah, it didn't. It didn't come off very well.
All right.
All right, Crystal.
Yeah, maybe I don't know, maybe his brain was going too fast or something and it didn't translate well, maybe. But sometimes I do feel like I agree with Christine that you should give from the heart, but I feel like sometimes they are drilling in about how tithing is in the Bible and that you should give that above anything else, including my church. So I don't know, maybe what was happening with him just didn't translate very well, but sometimes I feel like you should give from the heart.
Okay, and just real quickly, just to ask Patty, Crystal, and Christine, I've already know Derek's perspective on this, but just to make sure, so you're saying the way to give is, from your heart. Now, and you mentioned a tithing thing. Is there anything y'all want to say on the tithing thing, Christine or Patty or Crystal?
I do believe in tithing.
Okay.
I tithe faithfully.
Okay. What about you, Patty?
I was, brought up to the tithing, the teachings and all of that. I was given a copy of a book and I began to read it, and it was dissected really, really well. And so my idea of tithing is a little bit different. I still feel that there is tithing. It's just not the way that it's been portrayed all of these years by a lot of the pastors.
Okay. So Derek, did you want to come in?
Never would have made it. No, I'm just kidding.
Never would have paid it.
Right. I would have lost it all. But I'm glad I got to hear everybody say what they said. I actually wrote a book on the truth about tithing. And one thing that I do know is that we have been duped. We have been lied to. And in this particular area, it shows whether or not we've been reading on what God has said about this thing. So I want to dispel something real quickly since it's been said. The first thing is that, yes, tithing is biblical, but the confusion is that tithing is giving. The word tithe does not mean give. They're not synonymous. There are so many scriptures that if you knew them all on tithing, you would actually look around and go, how can the church teach this lie? So as we get to the Marvin Sapp, of course he's going to do that. When you can make people think that God is demanding money from you and you fall for it. Well, I don't want to say fall for that, because I used to tithe because I didn't know what it was. But if you can fool people into thinking that's what God wants, then he feels normal in asking for money that way. And most of the churches are asking for it that way. But once you open the Bible and you start looking at the scriptures, that's when you'll go, oh my God. So if anybody on here that's in the chat, that's on the panel, I will give you my book. It's free. It doesn't cost anything. And it will show you biblically what tithing is not and what it is. But back to Marvin Sapp. Yes, that dude knew exactly what he was doing. And I think once you've lied to somebody about money, it just starts getting easy. it starts getting really easy. And I mean, to be in a setting where you got cameras on you and everything and telling people to shut the door. And you know what? I actually saw a video, and I'll stop after this, but I actually saw a video where this lady came on and she said, you know, I was sick and his church kept calling me and telling me that if I don't tithe, they were threatening me. And I'm like, wow, they were threatening this woman who was sick because they wanted to make sure she was going to tithe. And I said, well, as long as we stay uneducated about this subject, we're going to continue to be taken advantage of. I agree with Christine at the very beginning. If you're going to give from your heart, then the word tithe should never enter the sentence because tithing and giving are not synonymous.
Okay.
All of that.
So Patty or Christine, anybody, and y'all want to address his point on that? I know y'all expressed, I don't know if Crystal expressed it, but I know Patty and Christine expressed that they believe in a tithe.
I don't agree with Derek. As far as, first of all, my life is totally submitted to God. Everything I have, everything I am belongs to Him. What I give, I'm just giving back to Him. Now, if I give unto the church and they don't do what's right, that's on their head. But I'm giving unto the Lord. That's how I'm giving.
Can I answer that, Falcon?
Well, I was saying, Patty, do you want to share your agreement or disagreement with Derek really quick? And then Derek, you can respond to both of them at the same time.
Well, it was Derek's book that he gave me that I read that, that got me really, like, it's so plain. You can, the scriptures there, he puts all the scriptures in there, breaks it all down. It's hard not to see it right there playing in front of you. So that is why, like I said, I was taught the tithing, the giving, and all of that. And scripturally wise, the book that Derek wrote really changed my way of thinking, my focus biblically, and the verses that are broken.
Got you.
Well, we got
Go ahead,
comments in here. Let me read some of these comments. Good evening to everybody. His action was acting to highway robbery. Highway robbery. LOL. LOL. That was funny. That was funny and sad. I say that. Funny and sad. Help the bear. Question: did he really hold them hostage though? Nobody could have stopped me from leaving if I wanted to. That's what I was thinking. All right, so do y'all want to address? Let me get one more comment before y'all can address some of these. Lawrence Lewis said, tithing and taking from the people is two different things. Karen Knox said, man, he would have to see the worst in me. That's funny. All right, so Helter Bell also said, well, tithes died with the Levites, I think. Tithes mean the tenth in Hebrew, not given. All right. So anybody want to address these comments?
Well, let Crystal. Crystal hasn't gone yet.
All right.
Okay, Crystal.
Well, now I feel I definitely need your book, Derek, because maybe I need this explained in a different way as well. And I mean, I grew up in a Baptist church and I go to a non-denominational now, but the tithing has been ingrained in me since I was little. And I always, like, inside of me, and I don't know the scriptures, all of them that go with that, to be honest. So I need to look into that and get that together. But inside of me, I always felt like they were begging me for money, if this makes sense. So I guess having the scripture along with the difference explained to me in my mind would put the pieces of puzzle together for me, if that makes any sense. But
absolutely,
I always felt like something wasn't quite right because I didn't feel like God would be begging me for money. But I mean, I'm like, this just doesn't
Yeah.
seem like this goes together, but I am not an expert, so therefore I could not argue anyone down. So yeah, I that is
Okay.
what
Well,
I.
Okay, so let me get some more comments in there.
I-
Let me read. All right, so also Lawrence Lewis also said also the church has begun to cater to the feminine culture because they are more apt to give and be fooled. Hence the difference of opinion. I agree with Derek 1000%. Shout out to Lawrence Lewis. All right, so Vulcan, you got anything?
can I read? Can I?
You can.
Okay. So I want to be very, 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 very clear on this, and I'm going to say this way for effect. It's the black church that has been more confused on this. And if you just look at us statistically, we don't read, we don't study, and I want this to be known. What Christine said is perfect for a person that is giving from their heart. They feel they feel the love of Christ, and they feel that what I have is God's, and I have a heart to give. That is what you should do. But don't tack it with something that it is not. But see, if you've never studied what tithing is, I probably sound crazy to you. Like, what do you mean? That tithing is giving. Like, what is he talking about? It's like, no, it's none of that. And there was an absolute purpose for it. But I think your heart's in the total right place. You're giving from the heart. You give cheerfully. The one thing that I would ask you is, if you didn't, in your mind, tithe, would you feel like you're doing something wrong? The moment you say yes to that question, that's how you know tithing should be way, way, way out the door. Because if you're giving cheerfully from the heart, there is no condemnation in that. If you want to give $1 from your heart, you give it. If you want to give 10,000 from your heart, you give it. Watch this. If you don't want to give nothing, that is between your heart and God. But for somebody to tell you that you have to give it, as if God is saying, I ain't gonna bless you unless you give me your money. And you hear all the manipulation of God gives you 100%. The least you can do is give 10%. I mean, it's just ridiculous, some of the things they say. So that would be but I'll be happy to send you the book so that you can see all of the scriptures, and then you can go to God yourself and go, oh my gosh, I didn't know that. It's interesting.
All right, let's welcome Karen Cox. Karen
Karen.
Knox. Everybody say hey to Karen Knox. How
Karen
you
Knox.
Hello.
Hello.
Hi. Yes.
What's up, Karen? Welcome to the Vulcan Soapbox.
Yes, I'm excited. I personally feel the same way you guys feel. It took me a while because the church that I went to was the Apostolic Holiness Church, and which is nothing wrong with that, but they also taught us that, given, I do believe that given is something we're supposed to do anyway, because we want to be givers instead of receivers. And I think as long as you give from your heart, and I always look to God for my blessings. I don't look for anyone else to give me anything. So I had this discussion with my sister, and she was like, I'm going to pay my tithes. I have to give this. I said, you know what? I'm going to take my tithes, whatever it is, and I'm going to bless someone upstairs because this young lady just had a baby. And I felt in my heart, I said, Lord, I want to do something for her. I feel like, given to me is just given. If God tells you to give, the Holy Spirit tells you to give, you give. And you receive your blessings, but everything is man-made. I mean, everything is being controlled by man in the church. Some churches.
Well,
But
that's
yeah.
something that Derek was speaking on. I want to read one more comment. Help the Bear says, where is the logic in all this? Vulcan, put us on game. Want to respond to that?
Well,
Vulcan.
Oh, you didn't say who you were talking to.
Yes,
No, we can
where's
keep on
the
going.
logic and all this? Vulcan, put us on game.
Yeah, I heard it. No, let's keep on going.
Yeah, I'm saying, do you want to respond to that?
For the third time, no.
Oh, you said no. All right, so let's go ahead and move on to the next one. All right, so I got another question. That was, he did his response, and Ricky Smiley, y'all addressed that. So, I mean, y'all addressed that. So let's go ahead and get to the next question I'm going to ask y'all. All right, if a couple plans to marry and they attend separate churches, which church should she attend if the man dislikes her church? All right, let's start with that first, and then we'll ask y'all why. So first, let's get the answer. If a couple plans to marry and they attend separate churches, which church should they attend if the man dislikes her church? Let's go with the screen back. Well, let's start with Christine.
I wouldn't have a problem if he didn't like my church. I wouldn't have a problem attending his church.
Okay.
I would hope that if I'm deciding on marrying this person, that we would have.
Hold on, we're going to get to the whys. We're going to get to whys shortly. But
sure.
So you say you would go to the man's church, right?
Yeah, I would.
All right, let's go with Pat.
Yes, I would definitely go to his church.
All right, Patty. Crystal.
Yes, I definitely would go to his church for sure.
Let's go to Karen.
Definitely. It's the head of my life.
All right.
Mm-hmm.
Let's bring Derek.
Well, I mean, I ain't going to hers if I don't like it.
Easy answer. All right,
Never
so,
would.
all right, so Vulcan. You'll go Vulcan. All right, let's
Yeah, definitely. If
I'm gonna come back to you, Vulcan. Let's get everybody to explain why. Why would you join the husband church? Let's get everybody to explain why first. Let's start with Christine.
Well, for a couple of reasons. For one, so that all the ladies at his church knows he's now married. He's taken. His wife is with him.
Yeah.
Okay, that's the first one. No, but I mean, if I choose to marry this person, we would have many of the same beliefs, and I'm sure that his church would be fine to attend. I just wouldn't have a problem with it.
Okay. All right, Patty.
Yes, I feel the same way. If we, by the time we get to the marriage part, all of that would have already been discussed. And he is the lead, the head of household, spiritual leader, and I would trust him and go to his church.
All right, let's bring Crystal in.
I sentiment exactly what Patty said. Yes.
Okay. All right, some audio issues going on with Crystal. Let's get Karen in.
I definitely agree with the ladies. Definitely. I mean, you marry the husband, when you join, you become one. But anyone that I'm gonna marry is gonna have to hear from the Lord, and I'm gonna trust his judgment spiritually. So, he's the head of my life, and God is the head of his. So, yes, he's definitely the covenant of the house. So, yeah.
Okay, that's rare. Usually we have, disagreements. This is one of the few times that we have everybody actually agree. Got Derek in here.
Wow, I actually like that. Shoot, on TikTok, Mark, I had a whole bunch of people say that it's okay to go to separate churches. It's nothing wrong with it. I know people that have gone to separate churches, and I said, yeah, I know people that are gay, that are married, that don't make it right, and so I 100% think that, and the question really is, if you're with a godly man that understands the word of God, and he don't like your church, that, I mean, even if he liked your church, you still want to follow the man that's leading you. And one of the things I do want to say, in case somebody from TikTok or something is watching this, is one of the major reasons that you want to follow your man is if you're at some other church, your man is your spiritual covering, not your pastor. So if he's not there with you, you could be being taught to tithe, and he's not there to go, hey, that's foolishness. That's not in the Bible like that. And so, yeah, you definitely want to be where your man can continually protect you physically and spiritually.
All right. Bring Vulcan in here.
Well, definitely, if I'm with somebody and I don't like their church and we're looking towards marriage, I would expect them to go to the place that I'm attending, or we would find somewhere we both like if I was willing to do so. Primarily because it is the man's role as the covering to facilitate a place of worship for the two of them. And what that entails is understanding the doctrine, understanding what the church should be like based off their understanding of theology. And so you would already start leading her in that direction. And also it's a good indication of her ability to follow leadership. So I would say that's definitely, without a question, is something that would have to take place. That doesn't mean, she might have some questions. You might have to clarify some things and make some good points, and maybe she'll make some better points and you'll be like, you know what? I like your church now. But that conversation definitely needs to be had.
Yeah, 100%.
All right. I think that's pretty good. Actually, another question there, because we all agree to that. Women love unconditionally more than men. Agree or disagree? Let's start with that, and then we come back around. You can explain why. Women love unconditionally more than men. Agree or disagree? Let's start with Christine.
Disagree.
Disagree. All right, let's go with Patty.
I agree.
All right, so we got Christine disagree, Patty agree. Let's bring Crystal here.
Disagree.
All right, good. Your audio's still bad. All right, let's get Karen Knox. Sorry.
I agree.
Knox, they agree. And then we get Derek.
Oh yeah, I disagree that women love more unconditionally than men.
All right, so we had. Okay, so who agreed again? That was Patty, right?
Yes.
All right, let's go with you first. Let's go with Patty and then Karen. Explain why
Let's
you
get
agree.
So the way I see it is women are nurtured, and so the love is typically different anyways. It just comes from, not necessarily from a different place, it's just shown. Men love, a lot of men love equally, but they are more respect equals love mostly for men, so they come from a different place. Plus it's a lot less about feelings and more factual at times. So that's where the unconditional part comes, because as a mom, I can maybe not even as a mom, but as a woman, I can love without conditions, where I feel that a man, because they're so factual and they're so on truth in that it would lead to, unless it's their daughters or something to that effect, or maybe they're even their wife, there would be conditions for that reason in my mind.
All right. So, Crystal, did you agree? I can't remember.
No, I disagreed.
All right. Am I the only one? Did you hear the audio issues were?
No.
It's not just me, right?
It's cracking.
Okay, so y'all hear it too. All right, so we're going to
Crystal, put your mute on just for a second. Okay, so yeah, that is you, sweetie.
All right, so we
try logging out and then logging back in.
Yeah,
okay.
Try doing that.
Okay.
All right, so let me bring Karen Knox in. You said you agree that women love unconditionally more than men. Go ahead. You agreed.
I guess
Explain why.
I guess I was speaking for myself, but now that the question is women in general, I would say I do think women are more inner, men are like outer, but if you're
Hold on.
thinking about
Maybe if you don't mind me interjecting, men are more inner, outer, meaning what? Can you
I think
elaborate?
I think men are more outer. Women are more have feelings inner. They feel inner feelings, well, which I think men do as well. But if you want to ask me about unconditional love, this is my opinion. I would say you have to love God. You have to have agape love in you, and then you can love unconditional. So this question can go either way. Now, are we talking about a spiritual way, or are we talking about in the natural? Because in the natural, I didn't know what unconditional love was until I received
Before, how would you define natural? How would you define it then? A spiritual.
as okay, natural to me is the way the world view things,
Okay.
worldly.
All right.
Spiritual to me is godly, agape love,
Okay.
unconditional love, like that God has for us. Now,
Okay.
I do
All right.
believe when I gave myself to Christ and I, got him in my life, accepted him in my life, in my heart, I have learned to love unconditionally. Yes, that is very important. So spiritually, I would say yes. Naturally, in a natural way, I would say um, women still know how to love unconditionally.
So that's a yes. So women love unconditionally more than men. That's a yes for women there.
Yeah.
All right. So let me bring. All right. So Patty disagreed, and I don't remember Crystal's answer. Did she agree? Crystal, or she disagreed? Oh,
No,
she
I
was wrong.
disagree.
Okay. All right. We have to. Yes. We still having audio issues. All right. So let me bring in Derek. No, I'm sorry. Let me bring Christine in. Let me bring Christine in. Or why you disagree?
I disagree because I believe more so than it's women versus man is just individually. There are some men that can love unconditionally, while there are some women who can't. So I don't think it's necessarily has to do with it being male or female. It's just the individual person.
Okay. All right. Let's bring Derek.
Well, I think definitely men. I don't think any of us love unconditionally in this life. I think we aspire to it. I think we would like to be there, but we don't know what event can happen in this life that will take that whole uh, unconditional thing out the window. But I will say this: a man will sacrifice his happiness for his family because he loves them. A woman, and we're talking statistically, not individually. Statistically, a woman will sacrifice her family for her happiness. I think men, when you look at the fact that relationships are destroyed, 70% of divorces are initiated by women. If they have a degree, 90%. Statistically, men don't leave. If we started, no matter, and you got men that they're not all doing what they're supposed to, but when it comes to loving their woman, yeah, I think men statistically do it much better than women.
Wow.
Okay, yeah. Anybody disagree with what Derek just said?
I disagree.
I
again,
disagree.
Well, okay, so we got two disagreements. Christine, you go ahead and get in first, and then we'll go from there. Why do you disagree with Derek?
Again, I don't believe it's a male versus female issue. I believe it's an individual person. Their beliefs, their ideals, their morals. And that can go either way. There are some.
Well, let me interject. Hold on real quick, Christine. Let me interject because I think we all agree that it's an individual thing. I think Derek's point is statistically. So if you can go from the micro to the macro for a moment, do you agree that on the macro, just in general, that men have more unconditional love than ladies do? And if you don't agree, why would you say?
Again, it's the same thing. I don't agree with, because I don't think that it's just that they're a man that they love better or worse or whatever. It's the person. Everybody's different.
So your point is that just you can never make generalizations about people?
Yeah.
So somebody said that men are generally taller than women. You would say that's not good because there's individuals that are.
I mean, physically, yes, but I'm talking as far as emotions and even intellect. No, you can't.
So you're saying generalizations are okay, just not when they're non-physical.
It depends on the situation. It's situational. Is what it is.
Okay. So who else had expressed a disagreement? That was Karen. Karen, why do you disagree with Derek?
It could be, I have numerous reasons.
Okay. Can you give your top reason?
Statistics shows, if you read, I mean, I've heard the saying, the apple don't fall far from the tree. Meaning, I never thought you would have done it because your father did it to me. I mean, this thing can go on and on and on.
That's a statistic you're referring to?
Yeah, I mean,
that's more of a figure of speech.
Okay, well, I'm saying a figure of speech, but I mean, it can go both ways. I mean, you're saying a man loves his family. Yes, a woman loves her family as well. We nurture, we carry, we birth people by the grace of God through us. I mean, I understand what Derek is saying, and it can go 50-50, I think, at this point, a man or a woman,
Sorry, go ahead, Derek. You got a point you want to make?
So here's the I'm going to tackle two things at once. First thing with Christine is that men and women, we're not equal. We're not equal. We don't operate the same. We don't function the same. And with Karen, you have to look at it this. Well, you don't have to look at it this way, but think of it this way: a man, if the statistics say, and this is a statistic that is known, if you Googled it right now, you would see proof that it's not 50-50. You would see proof that it is way heavy on the women's side that are, and you know what? I'm not talking about divorcing for cheating and abuse. I'm talking, I ain't happy no more. I'm breaking the family up. There's a lot of that going on. So when you look at 70%, and
let me interject in there real quick, Derek. Ladies, do y'all agree that ladies are more likely to break up a marriage and a romantic relationship? Do y'all agree?
Regardless of the reason.
No, it's not regardless of the reason.
But before we get into the reasons, I just want to make sure we go around real quick. So Christine, for you, do you believe that women are more likely to break up a marriage?
Yes.
Karen, what about you?
You know what? I hate that I have to speak on women in general, but I experienced some with what you guys are talking about, but I'm not a quitter, so I can't really. No. I
so you disagree about that part?
I disagree.
Okay. And then Patty, what about you?
I agree.
Okay, so we got, and Derek, I'm sure you agree with that too, that ladies are more likely to break up a marriage?
Yeah.
Okay. So Karen, you being the black sheep in this one, Derek, go ahead and say why you believe it's so, and then we'll get Karen to respond.
Well, I mean, if you can dissect, when people hear the statistic of the 70%, I think most people, men and women, they probably instantly think, oh, it's because of cheating or some abuse. That number's in there, but that is not majority. It's not until you see a woman that has a husband that makes $2 million and he treats her like a queen and he does everything for her and she's got everything provided and she's not feeling it anymore. Now she gets half his stuff, she's out of there. There's more of that happening in that 70%. So when you look at it from that perspective, if the statistics say women leave more, then we can't say on the panel that it's 50-50 or it's, it depends on this, depends on that. Okay. if we look at it globally, y'all do it more than a man does. Now, if you look at it individually, you may think like Karen, well, I don't do it. I haven't had it. But statistically, whew, I've seen some crap, man, that I'm just like, wow.
All right, let's get Karen in there to go ahead, Karen. What do you say about that?
You know, I don't think money has anything to do with it.
I'm sorry.
I mean, what did you? I mean, $200,000, and I'm gonna support I'm doing everything for you and the children, and you're gonna leave and you're gonna take half of it. Hey, I was married to a man that made tons of money, and I didn't get anything because I wanted to keep my family together. So
Well,
I don't
hold
know.
on, real quick, Karen. Well, Karen, real
maybe-
quickly, because do you agree with Derek's point that women leave most of the time in the marriage? Like he said, 70%.
If they're getting paid after they leave, yeah, he might be right.
Okay, and for you, is that a good enough point of why women love unconditionally less than men do? Because they leave 70% of the time the marriage.
You're saying, I think women leave 75% or 70%.
He's saying statistically, women leave 70%. They file for divorce 70% of the time for a marriage. And he's saying that's proof that women love unconditionally less than men, statistically speaking.
Statistically speaking, he's probably right. Yes.
Okay, there we go, Derek. Now, Christine and Patty, y'all agree. Can you share why you agree?
So for me, I agree because I fell into that statistic at one point in time or another, although my most recent experience was completely opposite. So I really go by, right now emotionally, I can go by what I've experienced most recently. And that's why my answer was no. Or yes, that women do love more unconditionally just because of my most recent experience. But statistically, as Derek said, and then yes, I agree with 70, with the 70%. I don't know that equals, unconditional love, but I could see where it would fall into that category.
Yeah.
Well, unconditional is doesn't matter what it is. Doesn't matter what it is, I'm here.
Now, let's get into a little bit of why do we think that is? Why do we think that ladies are leaving 70% of the time? Let's go around. So first, Crystal, just to update you, we were talking about unconditional love and who exhibits that more, men or women, generally speaking. Because as Christine pointed out, every individual is different. And so you can't put that on everybody, right, Christine?
Correct.
But just generally speaking, we're saying that women are less likely to have unconditional love in a relationship. So now we're going around and figuring out why that is. So Crystal, if you don't mind going first, why do you think, in just 1 point, 30 seconds or less, why that is?
Why women are exhibiting unconditional love? I'm just clarifying. Making sure
Less than men.
Less than men?
30 seconds or less. If you need more time, let me know. We can come back to you.
Yes, come back to me.
Okay. Patty, what you got?
Thinking about it, I can see where Derek's coming from. I understand it. I see eye to eye with Derek on a lot of stuff. This one's a little more challenging for me, I feel, just
I'm sorry.
but just, yeah, I don't.
You have a why? If you're not, we can go on to Karen.
I definitely agree with Derek. Statistically, I don't know.
Okay. Christine.
So I think women are leaving relationships more than men because in today's society, women are working. They're also the caregivers. They're the cleaners.
Real quickly, are you giving the primary reason you think that women are leaving?
Yeah,
because obviously there's going to be multiple reasons, but what would you say the main reason?
Being overburdened more than the men are with the day-to-day life, and they're just getting tired of it.
Now, sorry, somebody said something?
No, go ahead.
Okay. Enos, did you want to speak to this? Yes or no? Okay, Garrett, go ahead.
Oh no, I mean,
What's your why?
my why.
Why are women leaving relationships like that? Why are they exhibiting less unconditional love than men?
I think we are a generation that follows culture a lot, and I think we're in a culture, this whole feminine movement that because I make money now, I don't need a man, and now you've got a whole category of women that because I'm gonna get half your stuff, I don't need you. I can find another you with half your stuff. So that would be
culture, but women and men are both in that same culture. That doesn't explain why women are leaving more. That is displaying. You're more explaining why divorce has increased over the years, but why are women more susceptible to this cultural phenomena that you're referring to, as opposed to the men?
Yeah, I want to respond after Derek.
It's in their favor. It's more favorable for them. It's not favorable for the man to leave. Can you imagine if the men started feeling the way women feel when they do leave? And I'm not talking about the areas of being unfaithful and all that. But can you imagine if men could leave and not have to give up half their stuff? If men could leave and had anything favorable in their favor, then we might have a different show right now. But as long as the favor is for women, they're going to continue to leave more than we do.
So this the kind of still man Derek's point here, and correct me if I'm wrong, Derek, but your point is that women are incentivized to leave their marriage in a way that men are not.
100%. Sounds
good. You know, you had a point you wanted to bring up?
Yeah, that because I didn't hear the question. Sorry about that. The question was, why do women, if you mind, finish so I can answer it the best way.
The question is, we already came to agreement that women love unconditionally less than men do. Then we we used the statistic of women leaving divorce rate, according to Derek, at least a 70% rate, the divorce rate of them leaving. And then now we're figuring out why. Okay. So everybody's giving their why if they had one, and now it's on you, so if you want to give a why for that.
All right, so for why, I'm going to do some scientific studies. There's a lot of research on this. Was a high percentage of women that struggle with neuroticism, right? What's neuroticism? Neuroticism is people that struggle with high stressful emotions. So within relationships bring more stress, and women, this is research, not me saying this, tend to struggle how to navigate those situations, have a difficult time navigating those situations versus men. So that's my why. I think that's the reason why it's a high percentage. A percentage of women leaving their marriages or divorcing at a higher rate, filing for divorce at a higher rate than men. That's my why.
So this the still man, and correct me if I'm wrong, what you're saying is there's a trait called neuroticism, and women deal with neuroticism more, which is having more negative emotions. Yes, and so a situation can happen to a man than to a woman, but for a woman, she experiences more negative emotions generally, and that can lead to her unhappiness a lot of time, or more consistent unhappiness than what men typically experience. So that can lead to them not being happy in a relationship, and so they're more likely to want to leave. So we got two whys so far. One was Derek's, they're incentivized, and then also the other one was that women have trait neuroticism, which is experiencing more negative emotions, which leads to unhappiness, which can make them want to break up their home to try to look for it. Anybody have anything they want to say about that if we move on?
Yeah, I wanted to grab a couple of these comments here real quick since it's still on this subject.
All right.
Is that okay?
Well, so you able to put them on the screen?
Yes, I see them. I'll read them. Oh, okay. I was just going to start with E. Marie, the one that says, I don't think we should measure.
Got you.
I don't think we should measure one another's love. That's where I think we fall short. I disagree because women make sacrifices too.
Anybody want to address that before I do?
I think you can measure a person's love. I mean, because it has to show in action. It can't just be an internal thing that you do.
For E. Marie, I would just ask why.
Well, she didn't say that you can or can't. She said we should. I don't think we should. That's more of like a moral imperative that she's addressing, not the ability which we can.
Okay, I agree with that.
What do you say about that?
I agree with that.
Or you think that we should not measure someone's love?
No, if the situation warrants it, I think we absolutely should.
Okay, so you do disagree with her about that?
Yeah.
Does anybody agree with her on this? Patty, Christine, Karen?
I do agree that women make sacrifices in relationships too. Again, like I said, you're comparing men and women, but there are bad men and bad women. So
I think you bring up a really good point with that. I mean, women, it costs women a lot. That's why it's so important for them to pick the right spouse, because a lot of times your childbearing, it affects your body, it affects your hair falling out, you got postpartum, all of that stuff, and it's for lengthy periods of time. So there's definitely a truth that women do sacrifice a lot. Men's life expectancies are expected to increase when they get married, while a lot of studies suggest that women's life expectancy decreases. So there's definitely some truth to that. But I do want to address what she said here. I don't think we should measure one another's love. That's where we fall short. I definitely agree with the women making sacrifices, but whether we say so, we don't, we are measuring people's love. That's natural. We measure everything, whether consciously or subconsciously. You know, whenever you're in a relationship with somebody, be it platonic, business, or romantic, you are in some way taking scope of what their love is, whether your love is being reciprocated, whether you're feeling valued. And those types of things are always going to be on the table and happening, whether you're doing it subconsciously or consciously. So I do think that we don't want to hold account of wrongdoings. We don't want to make our standard of love the standard of love, but we're always going to be measuring the love that we're receiving, the love that we're giving. You know, love does not insist upon its own way. Love does not seek its own desires. These are all metrics for measuring love. So that being said, we got any more comments? Enos, did you want to put on the screen?
Yeah.
And then you can just read them as he puts them on the screen.
Yeah. She said, we may leave most of the time, but that doesn't mean we didn't try to make it work. We may leave, but that doesn't mean we were the cause of
yeah. Okay, who wants to address that? And before I address it, come on, who wants to address this one? Derek, you got anything? Christine?
Yeah, that's hard. That's hard to measure that. That's hard to measure. We try to make it work. So I would like to elaborate. You know, but that's just hard to measure. That's my take on that.
You got some drums?
You got some drums.
Somebody playing the congas in the back.
Okay, well, you go ahead and go to the next one, Darius. Nobody has any comment on this one.
All right. That might be Jane.
Once the emotions and feelings are done, then they are mentally out. It's only for her to leave now physically. That was Heather M.
All right.
Yeah.
Anybody want to address this one?
That makes sense.
I will.
Okay, go ahead.
Definitely. Once, yes, a woman's emotions and feelings are done, because that is one of the main ways we are connected to our significant other. And once that integral part is done in our minds, then we may have tried and tried and tried. But once those two pieces are gone from the puzzle, then I don't think the puzzle can be put back together again. And so then that's probably one of the ways that contributes to the woman leaving. What the percentage was, he said, 70%.
The interesting thing about that is the percentages goes up with the IQ score of the lady, or with the amount of degrees that she has, or success that she has.
Yes, I would definitely have to agree on that as well. I definitely have experience with that for sure. That's all I'll say on that.
Okay, anybody else want to address this before we go to the next comment, Enos?
I do want to say something on the last comment when she said we try and try. I think I'm sorry, Crystal said something similar. I want to hear the other side of the story, then I can make a sound judgment what the man said. If she tried, or he tried, I need to hear both sides before I could make a sound judgment. That's my thoughts on that.
All right, sounds good. All right, next comment.
Mhm.
Add Heather M. Oh, I think they're talking amongst each other.
Okay.
Heather,
All right,
what's
so-
your point? Most men, what is it? Men do this most of the time. We still stay.
Mm.
Let's help the bear. You're exactly right. There's that difference again.
Okay, Enos, what else we got?
All right, that's it. That's all for the
Yeah.
comments.
All right, sounds good. All right, so we covered this one right here. Let's go to the next question.
What is the difference between a controlling man and a leader? What is the difference between a controlling man and a leader?
Oh,
All right.
Okay.
Dun.
Okay, Christine, you want to go first on this one?
no.
Okay, Crystal, what about you?
I will say, to me, this is just my first thought off the cuff. Is a controlling man in my mind is more like someone who I would define as a narcissist, and a leader is a man who is following, God's biblical principles in leading me, leading our family, and it goes to the word of being submissive, where people have misconstrued that word. But definitely to me, controlling means someone who, if I'm looking to the left because I see a bird fly by, and my partner is like, what are you looking at over there? Accusing me of something that I'm not doing, which goes along to me like someone with a narcissistic personality.
Can you mind for the audience and for the panel, just defining what a narcissistic man is?
Man, there's so many definitions of it.
What's your definition?
Someone who is only about themselves, someone who lays blame for their actions upon everyone else, someone who is very controlling. There's so many other definitions, but those are, I'll say those are my top three. I'm sure more people, y'all could add more.
And Patty, what about for you? What's the difference in a controlling man and a man that leads the right way?
So a man that leads has a vision, and if it's right, then they lead with love for not only the spouse but children, if there's children involved, as opposed to someone who is controlling. That I feel has absolutely nothing to do with love.
Okay. Christine, you ready?
I'm ready.
All right, let's go.
Okay, so someone who's controlling is just barking out orders, do this, do that, do whatever. Someone who is a leader is leading by example. They have this is, a clear path of what we should do, and they're leading by example, showing you this is how we should do it, not just barking out what you should do.
Got you. All right, Enos, what's the difference between a controlling man and a leader?
What's the difference between a controlling man and a leader? I guess for the traits or qualities, if you think about a leader, I start with a leader first. Leader, 4 things. I think Patty, I'm sorry, Crystal, one of them said one of us being a visionary. That's one quality. Integrity, effective communication, could take accountability, and active listening, good listening. So those leaders tend to respect hierarchies, competent hierarchies, moral hierarchies. They esteem that. They seek to have reason and logic lead their everyday decisions, their actions. versus a controlling man. The difference, a controlling man is more, they don't have the esteem or the same respect for those principles I just mentioned that a leader tends to submit to. That's what I would say. That's the difference.
All right, Derek, what about you? What you got?
I would say a controlling man is driven a little bit by insecurity and fear. They more demand obedience and demand situations, and there's really no voice that the woman has when she's dealing with a controlling man. Whereas a leader, like they said, has a vision for the family and can do those things in love and do it respectfully. If I could just give a very, very quick example, let's say you have a woman who's by the world standards is very attractive, and a controlling man, if she wears something where she's showing herself, he could demand take that off. He could he could manipulate her and say all kinds of stuff to degrade her self-esteem, to do whatever to get what he wants. Whereas a leader could say, it's not that you can't be an individual, it's just that this is more modest, and then you just have a conversation about it and come to the conclusion. So so I think a man that leads loves, and a man that controls, he just demands. Do what I say.
If I don't mind, is interject, because the controlling man, that's a good point you made, because controlling men tend to lead with intimidation and fear, versus a leader submit to more attracted to the ideas. So if a woman is wearing a certain clothing that he doesn't approve of, he could communicate the idea why this is a bad reason for wearing this type of clothing, right? I want to add to Crystal. She said a narcissistic man tends to have an inflated view of themselves, for one. And no, I'm gonna just stop there. Let me think about my answer with the
I want to speak to that point. Everybody brought up really good points, and if I were to just summarize how my view of it is, the difference between a controlling man and a man of leadership is man of leadership is in control, but he understands that control rests in that which is above and beyond him, in God. And then also, as Enos mentioned, the hierarchies that are in place, meaning that he leads by principles. He's not leading by the scripture says that love does not insist upon its own way. So he's not leading based off his own way. He's not leading in favor of himself above and beyond his family. But he may do things that spite himself, because that's what leaders do, to make sure that the organism or that the family or whatever it is he's leading, that they get to reap the main benefits of what's going on. So I would say that a leader is going to lead based off principle, based off what's right, based off what's the best for everyone involved. Where a controlling man is, as Enos pointed out, insecurities, fear, narcissism, having an inflated view of yourself, wanting to control people's preferences and opinions based off his arbitrary ideas that he has in his mind, apart from God, apart from any type of leadership from Christ or a good counsel. So that's what I would say in a nutshell about the difference between a controlling man and a leading man. Anybody have any comments? Christine, Patty, Crystal, any thoughts on any of that?
Agree.
We've got some good comments over there on this subject.
All right, Enos, where we at on the comments?
I got you. Let me start off with
E. Marie. That's exactly how most of us are manipulated into that. That's you way up there, buddy. Come all the way down to the one right above that. Yeah, controlling man is not guided by God. A man who leads is guided by God, which is exactly what Vulcan was saying. All right, go to you. Then we got Heather M. says a controlling man is a manipulator, a gaslighter, and never take accountability, while a leader is respectful, considerate, humble, and will lead by example. Woo, don't you just hate a gaslighter? Goodness. Controlling man does not know how to navigate conflicts. A leader communicates clearly. That is modest Latina.
Well, I would say this real quick about that comment. I think we got to be very careful here. A lot of times when we incriminate a certain type of person, like a controlling man, we focus on he doesn't know how to do this. It's not an issue of his knowledge base. A man can be very knowledgeable on how to do a bunch of different things if he's a controlling man. It does. The point of the matter, he goes against what is good in favor of what's going to benefit him. So it's not an issue of whether he knows or doesn't know how to do something. He could be utilizing those skills every day at his job, with his relationships with his family and friends, or maybe not. But, you know, it's not about does he know how to do it, it's does he utilize the principles that he knows. Because even a great leader can struggle in those areas at times and needs to be informed, but a great leader is going to seek out people who know better than him, get the multitude of counsel, for guidance. He's going to read, he's going to study, he's going to get those skills in line because he knows that people that are counting on him. So, yeah, we got more comments, Enos?
At E. Marie, that couldn't be further from the truth. I'm sure there are plenty of atheists that are better leaders than Christian men. That's why you got to come on the show, E. Marie. You'd be able to come back on him.
Anybody want to address that comment right there? Well, I'll address it. So he mentioned.
Okay,
I was
going to say, yeah, that there's some truth to that, because even when doing this show, the show is based on intellectual virtue, so that is a moral component in just conversing with each other. So an atheist can submit to virtues and have a great understanding of what it takes to be a leader. So versus certain professing Christians that are not absolutely committed or submitted to those principles. So I think there's some truth to that. I agree.
So real quickly, I'm going to make 2 points about that comment. One is the fact that people who are atheistic in the Western world are typically culturally Christian. Yeah. The most famous atheist right now we have on earth is a guy named Richard Dawkins. He's an evolutionary biologist and a public speaker, and has written many books on atheism and a lot of books anti-religious, especially Christianity. And one thing he will say is that he's culturally Christian. What that means is that his value system, his moral beliefs are that from Judeo-Christian principles. So it is very possible that an atheist in the Western world, which is where most atheists are can be better leaders than some Christian people, because they are still in the same moral system as Christians, because it was Judeo-Christians who founded the Western world. So they have picked up that same morality. Just to give one quick example, you have anybody seen the movie 300 with Leonidas? Sure. You saw when the babies were deformed, what did they do with the babies? They tossed them off the side to plummet to their deletion. When Christianity and Judeo-Christian mindset came into play, it was the belief that all people have intrinsic value and worth because they're all made in the imago Dei, the image of God. And once that particular belief system took hold, everybody started to cherish all life. That's why you don't see people in the Western world getting rid of babies that are deformed or have certain illnesses, because they believe that even though that life may not be as healthy as you would like, they still have the same value and worth that a baby with no illnesses has. Another quick example would be, you see this when it comes to women's rights. You notice that women's rights are really only debated in the Western world. Why? Because in the Bible says that there's neither slave nor free, nor male nor female. So the Bible said that women and men were equal. Adam said, flesh of my flesh, bone of my bone. That was established, which was a very controversial concept in the Western world, that women and men are equal. That's why you notice that only in the Western world, women have the rights that they do. And only in the Western world, women are able to fight for more rights. You don't see that in the East. Women don't have the same rights over there. Again, because of the Christian work ethic. Sorry, the Christian ethic. The Christian ethic and morality that was established. So those are two examples right there of how you can see that in the Western world, the morality, as it infiltrated everybody in all different cultures, we all come to esteem the same things and people's value and worth, whether it's gender or any other kind of thing. So I would say that an atheist can do it, but what an atheist can't do, and this is what we're talking about here, is lead their family in the way that a Christian should lead their family, to honor God. That's the area where a Christian will outshine an atheist, because atheists don't have that spirit. They don't have that mindset. They borrow the Christian perspective to lead their family, and they can do that maybe better than some Christians could. but they can't lead their family in a godly way better than a Christian could. Anybody have anything on those points that I gave?
Yeah.
No, I agree.
Okay, somebody said I'm moving. Y'all hearing some noise on my end?
No, I'll tell you later.
I got ADHD, everybody. Just y'all know I got ADHD.
You're moving around. You're moving around too much.
All I see is that hand going.
Oh, yeah. Okay. I'm not somebody strap me down. I'm not somebody strap me to the chair. All right. So, any we got any more comments, Enos?
Yeah, that's the last comment. 100. Maria said 100 to Derek. So
shout out to Derek.
Yeah. That's a good point. I think
the real vocal on the show, Derek. Let's get it. All right, Enos, next question.
Let's see what we got.
We got here. Let's go.
What is the difference between a conditionally submissive woman and a submissive woman?
Ooh, this is gonna be a good one right here.
What is that to have some fun?
All right, let's go. So let's first go with Derek.
You want me to go first?
Well, hold on. Enos, did you want to take this one first? Or you want Derek to go first? Which one? You want to take this one first? Or you want Derek to go first?
All right, I'll go.
Okay.
Here's the difference. A submissive woman is a submissive woman. She's submissive all the time. She's not submissive because of. The woman that is unconditionally, or that is conditionally submissive, you'll hear a woman say, "I'll do this" when a man does that. That's a conditionally submissive woman. A submissive woman's like, "This is who I am." So yeah. So the difference is one does it maybe for gain, the other is that.
So real quickly before I get the rest of the panel on here, are you saying that to be a submissive woman, you got to be perfect in submission?
No, not at all. But you can't be submissive only when. Imagine if a man said, "Well, honey, I'm going to talk like this today because, I'm by myself." But then all of a sudden you're like, "Wait a minute, that bro, imagine if a man told you, I'll be a man on Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. But on these 2 days, I want to act this way."
Perfect. So, we're going to have Patty go ahead and give her perspective. And if you could just put it on the screen again for Karen to catch up. Go ahead, Patty. What is your thoughts on it?
No, I agree with Eric. A submissive woman, who they are. They are that way all the time. It's almost something that you don't even really have to think about. It's who you are in your heart. It's what you've decided to be, or what God has called you to be. And it's almost without thought for the most part. It's just who you are, and there is no conditions. You don't ever stop being that, even when it's not, happening the way you want it to happen, or, whatever. You are still.
I appreciate that. Definitely. Okay, Crystal, what do you got?
I agree with what both Derek and Patty both said. I agree definitely with both of them.
Mm-hmm. So how would you define a submissive versus a woman who's conditionally submissive?
Having what's the word I'm looking for? Like Derek said, I'll be this way when the man is this way, is definitely putting expectations, conditions on being that way versus that's just who you are. Just
got you.
Naturally submissive person.
All right, Enos, you go ahead and go, and then after that we have Christine go. What is the difference between a submissive woman?
Let me read that question again. What is the difference between a conditionally submissive woman and a submissive woman? All right, so I'm going to say this. You could your mic, Vulcan. I don't know if you have to bring it closer to you. It's squeaking. So condition. You touched on this earlier. How people just their values line up with them culturally. So women, that's conditioned, that's just part of their culture. So that could be a way women, for example, for women that's conditioned, to be submissive because the environment they're in, the culture they're in, right? A woman is submissive, she actually understands the implication of submissive. So it comes from within. She actually has a deep understanding of that ideology and she submits to that. That's the difference. One who understands what submissive means because personally and investigated and did the research and submitted to it, to that form of ideology, versus somebody that just grew up in it without a deeper understanding of it.
All right, Christine, what about you? What's your thoughts on that?
I mean, I basically agree with everyone. Someone who's submissive, just naturally, it's just innate, it's in them. And then someone who's conditionally submissive is, again, they put conditions on it, you know, what they'll do in order for you to get their submissiveness. So,
Karen, did you already go? I don't think Karen went already. Karen, what's your thoughts on it?
I basically agree on what everyone is saying about submission and being submissive. With the condition or without. Mm-hmm.
So I want somebody, whoever wants to jump in. If nobody jumps in, I'll just pick somebody. We got comments first. So who wants to read the comments here?
You muted, Derek. I go ahead. While submissive woman is the way in her thinking and action, for her, it comes natural. All right?
Yep. That's what Christine was saying. Yep. A conditionally submissive woman is flexible. She may decide to or not to. A submissive one puts her partner's needs before hers. That's who she is. Like that.
Okay, so let's go to Christine here. What are the dangers of a woman who is? You know, she about to say something, Ninos?
Push your mic. Push it away a little bit.
Push it away.
Yeah.
Okay. Is that better?
Yeah.
Are y'all hearing that little screeching noise that it's doing?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Y'all been hearing it the whole time. Y'all haven't really been saying anything. That's insane. All right. Well, I'm gonna need my panel to help me out a little bit on that.
You know what? Try this. Try turning your volume down a little.
It's not gonna be able to do that.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. It's just.
There's a will. There's a way. No.
It's just a hot mic. Don't come with volume up or down.
All right. Can y'all hear me? How does it sound?
All right.
Sounds good, Phil.
Yeah, well, let me know and I'll put it back on. But I have it on mute. I don't think y'all can hear it, so I'll put it on mute.
We hear you loud and clear even right now.
Okay, perfect. That's great. All right, so going back to the topic at hand right here. What are the dangers of a man marrying a conditionally submissive woman, Crystal?
Ooh. Basically, to me, it seems like there's always going to be some sort of conflict. When you put stipulations on, being a certain way, like going back to what we said, I'll be this way when he is this way. It just seems like you're constantly just going to be staying in conflict, and there's never going to be, where you're going to be on the same page about anything.
All right. Now, Christine, what about for you? What are the dangers of a man marrying a conditionally submissive woman?
Well,
what if she? Well, sorry, real quick. What if she says, "I'll be submissive. You'll be able to see me being fully submissive once you've given me that ring."
Once she gets the ring?
Yes.
Oh my gosh.
Well, I mean, should a woman be submitting to a man if she doesn't have a ring?
Ding, 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 ding. That's the question.
No.
Okay.
She
Okay,
shouldn't.
so let's pass that around. Patty, should a woman be demonstrating full submission prior to the ring?
Absolutely.
My precious.
Hello, my pretty.
Absolutely. A wife is already a wife before she gets the ring, before she gets the marriage, before she gets the husband.
Yes.
Already walking.
Okay. Karen, what do you think about that?
I agree.
You agree, Crystal?
Mm-hmm.
You agree with that?
Absolutely. She's already walking in her purpose. That is how she is. And, then she finds someone that she's equally yoked with. So she already is this way before she ever found the man who's going to give her the ring.
Christine, do you think she is showing that she is fully submissive prior to the ring?
Yeah, she should be showing that she submitted unto God first. And he should, see that in her. Yes.
Should she be showing that she's submissive to him prior to the ring?
Yeah, I believe so. I mean, to a certain extent, though.
Yeah.
Okay. What's the extent that you would say? If you don't mind, put a little bit of meat on that bone for us.
I mean, and certain, the things that she does for him, how she treats him, in that way, you're not totally submitted to a man that you're not married to. You're not totally submitted to.
Okay. What's like an example of something that he may ask her to submit to that you would say you save that till after you get married?
The example that we talked about earlier about they're discussing when we get married, whose church we're going to. I don't like your church. Will you be willing to go to my church?
So are you saying that she shouldn't switch churches until she says I do?
No, I'm not saying that. No, I'm saying that that's an example of something that shows her submissiveness. She says, yes,
Okay.
I would be willing to go to your church.
Okay. What's an example of something she shouldn't submit to prior to marriage? That's not sinful.
Oh, that's well.
Darn it.
That takes it off the table right there.
Okay. So you say that she should submit as long as it's not something that goes against.
As long as it's not something that goes against God.
Sound like we're on the same page. Is there anybody got any more to want to add to this topic before we move on?
I got a quick example. I've heard some women say, they're not going to change how they dress until we get married because this is how I dressed when you met me.
Okay, so Crystal, should she change how she dresses prior to getting married?
I mean, I can only speak for myself.
Should she, not you, should she?
Well, I was going to say, I don't dress any kind of way, so I wouldn't need to change. But if she was being submissive and being with, this is her partner, man, then yes.
Okay. Karen?
Definitely. Yes, I think so.
Okay. Patty?
Yep.
Christine?
Okay, so you met her. She was dressing a certain type of way that you must have liked because you approached her. So you must have liked her dressing this way. But now,
Let them have it, Christine. Let them have it. Go ahead.
Let me have
but now you would like for her to change the way that she dresses.
Should she do it prior to getting married?
100%.
You have the floor, Christine. Yes or no?
If she loves him.
Okay.
If she loves him,
She got a love him to change. Wow.
If she doesn't love him, but she does plan on marrying. Okay, let me ask you this then, Christine. If she doesn't, if she's growing to love him, but she does plan on marrying him, this is the person that she is planning on marrying.
Okay.
Should she change her garb in light of his direction?
Yeah, if she's planning on marrying him, yeah.
All right. Enos, do you agree, disagree? Should she change her garb or attire?
Somewhat agree if she's planning on marrying, but just in general, yeah, I agree with that. But if you break down the definition of submissive, it just means somebody who submits to a higher authority. So whether you're dating, whether it's a friend, just that's your characteristics. Somebody who's more reasonable, more logical than you are, doesn't have to be somebody you're intimate with. That's a trait of submissiveness. You don't have to be in love with the person in order to display those characteristics. So if somebody's, like I said, more reasonable or better at you or something, a forward thinker, a leader, whether it's your job or somebody that's on the street trying to guide you across the street, you should always display those characteristics as a woman.
We appreciate your wisdom right there. Do we have any comments we got to go over?
Yeah, we do. But let me chime in here before I read this first comment.
Okay. Let's go.
If I'm in a grocery store and I'm walking through the grocery store and I see a young lady and she is drop dead gorgeous, and she happens to have on some very, very revealing an outfit, and I end up meeting her and we end up liking each other, I am absolutely not out of line by saying, hey, you know what, sweetheart? You look beautiful, but it is like way too revealing. The fact that I met you this way doesn't give a license to keep it. And so remember, I'm looking at it from a God perspective. Like there's no reason for you to have everything out for the world to see, especially if you have a man. So that would be my kind of my logic behind the reason I think that should probably change.
So Christine, it seems like that was in light of what you mentioned earlier about the fact that he said if she liked him, if he liked her when he saw her that way, then what's up? Why change it? Why ask her to change now? What do you think about what Derek just said? Do you agree or disagree?
I mean, it's reasonable.
It's reasonable. Okay, Derek, there you go. Somebody, shout out.
I mean, Christine, thank you.
Yeah.
All right, let's tackle these. What do we got here? She better submit all that paperwork if she's trying to get hired. All out of all the letters in the alphabet, she choose a P. I'm trying to manage her, not damage her. That's funny. All right, what's the next one? It says to a point, because she can't completely give up her individuality, even though the two now become one, she still has a mind of her own. I'm gonna hold off.
All right. So you muted.
How would you might want to tackle?
Anybody else want to address that comment?
Oh, I do if somebody doesn't.
Oh yeah, go put the comment back up, and Derek, go ahead. Well, hold on. Before you say something, Christine, Patty, Karen, and y'all want to address that comment?
I will.
Okay, go ahead.
So submissive is a lot of things, but it's also not a lot of things. It's not losing your voice. It's not losing who you are, your individuality. Submissive is not things. So
okay, good, excellent point there. Okay, anybody else? Christine, anybody else want to? Karen, Crystal, anybody else want to make a point on that?
Yes, I'll agree with what Patty said, because even though I am submissive to him, I still am my own person, and I still have my own mind.
All right, Derek, go ahead.
The rabbit hole we could go down if we jump in this individualism category is insane. I mean, because think about the things that a man could say. Well, I'm going to continue to do this because this is my individuality, but it's something that could affect the relationship. I don't think a woman loses her individuality, especially in this topic. We're talking about clothes. I don't think she loses her individuality. I think it's enhanced because now it's not about the individual. They are becoming one. Her body's not her own. His body's not his own. So I think that whole game changes when they become one.
Yeah, I mean, and I also want to say, so I'm gonna read this comment one more time, and then I'm gonna address it to a point, because she can't completely give up her individualism, even though the two now becomes one. She still has a mind of her own. So we got to really unpackage this real quick. What are we told to do? To die to ourselves daily, right? So that doesn't mean we give up individualism in the sense of your favorite ice cream is strawberry. It's gonna be strawberry when you get married. It's not probably going to change. Well, sometimes it does change. Sometimes your husband has a better pick of ice cream, or vice versa.
Right.
You know, anybody who's been in a relationship, sometimes you take on each other's preferences when it comes to cuisine and literature and all kind of different stuff. And that's the part of the beauty of it, right? Or sometimes you realize how much you don't like what they like the more you see them do it. You know I've seen people watching Bridgerton and I'm like, I just don't get it. Why you like Bridgerton so much? It doesn't, we could be watching the Hulk, we could watch the Hulk smash right now and you'd rather watch Bridgerton. I don't get it. And that's okay. But I think one thing that's important, individualism, and as Americans, we have a very rugged individualism perspective. That's a part of what makes America great. But also the people that the Bible was written by and to, they didn't have that same cultural mindset that we have. And we got to understand we're told to take on the mind of Christ at the same time, which is not necessarily an individualistic mindset. So you just got to make sure you have your individualism under control of God and the scriptures. And if you can do that, then you'll be just fine. Because individualism is cool and it has its place, but at the same time, we're a part of another body. And every joint supplies, right? So you just got to keep that in mind what we're doing. And then there's a certain headship that goes into being a part of it. And we are to honor that headship and that hierarchy that's been established spiritually. But it's going to be for everybody and every couple to determine how that works itself out. So anybody else have anything to say before we move on to the next question? Okay, looks like we can head to the next question unless we have any more comments.
One more comment before we get to the question. One last comment. I think this is where culture comes in. There is so much pleasure culturally in the West.
Right.
Hold on, let me read that real quick. I think this is where culture comes in. There's so much pressure culturally in the West. Now, anybody want to address that comment before I address it?
You go ahead.
Okay, so yes, there's pressure culturally in the West, but when we're comparing the West to other places, the reason why you don't see the cultural pressures in other places is because it's suppressed. There's only allowed to be one voice in those places. There's no Second Amendment. There's no First Amendment. So there's only one type of culture. And if anybody's heard of honor deletions, where they make sure that everybody stays hook, line, and sinker with what's going on, whatever the dominant mindset and culture is, you are not allowed to question that. So as much as we critique the West because it has its challenges, we're definitely reaping a lot of the benefits of the freedoms and liberties that we enjoy here. So just keep that in mind. When you compare the West to your idea in your head, then yes, we're going to find a lot of flaws. When you compare the West to the East and the North and the South, you will definitely relish your position on this stratosphere, this hemisphere. Okay, so next question.
Should women and men be encouraged to manifest and or speak into existence their spouse?
Oh, this is going to be a good one right here. I've seen
Get
so
my
much on
theme
this
music.
topic. So let's have Chris. Oh yeah, get theme music. All right, Christine, go ahead. Put the question back up, and
Yes,
Christine,
sir.
go ahead and answer that question in 30 seconds or less.
Yes, definitely.
Okay. Well, hold on. Sorry. Go ahead and we'll leave that and let's get a yes or no. Patty, yes or no?
I'm not so big on the manifest, but yes, speak it into existence, absolutely.
Okay, and then you can take it off the screen there, Enos. Thank you very much. And okay, Crystal, yes or no?
I'm not so big in manifesting either, speaking into existence and definitely praying for sure.
Okay, and Karen.
Definitely. I think you should speak things in existence. Yes, I agree.
Okay, so speaking and manifesting your spouse. Okay, Derek, you disagree?
I disagree.
Okay, Enos, you're the tiebreaker, not as flag. And I'm also going to go and say I disagree as well. But let's go ahead and start off with, okay, Christine, in just 30 seconds or less, why do you think that people should manifest and or speak into existence their spouse?
If you desire to be married, I think you should speak into existence that you want a spouse, first of all, you have to ask for it from God. That this is what you want. That you desire to be married. So you have to open your mouth and ask. He said, "You have not because you ask not." You have to ask for it.
Okay. All right, Patty, what about yourself? Why do you agree that they should do that?
Kind of the same thing. I feel like it's confessing is a form of prayer. So when you say it out loud and you pray on situations and things such as a husband, that you are literally having that conversation with God and asking that of him.
All right. Karen, how about yourself?
I think it is important to me as a Christian wife to be able to speak things in existence. Now, there are times that I may have to speak some things in existence for my husband.
Well, sorry, real quickly, Karen, you're saying some really good things, but remember, the question is about, should women and men be encouraged to manifest or speak into existence their spouse? So a single person using the power of manifestation or the power of speaking things into existence to get a spouse. Do you think that they should do that? And then why? Okay, why do you think they should do that?
Why? Because I think it's important to ask and go to God and be precise and what you want in a man or what you want in a husband. I do agree on that. I believe that. Yes.
Okay, Crystal, you up next. 30 seconds or less.
Manifesting to me, it has kind of like a negative I don't agree with that, but speaking into existence to me is more like making a list and speaking out loud as a prayer to God, asking for the qualities and for God to finish working on the man for me. So that's what I mean with.
All right, sounds good. All right, Derek. Well, sorry, but you know what? Enos, you disagreed. You want to share why you disagreed that they shouldn't be doing that in 30 seconds or less?
Yeah, sure. I disagree. One of the reasons is because that could handicap you for finding your husband or your potential mate. It's just like you're trying to manifest your job. You have to put the legwork. So that's what I mean by handicap. It stops you for putting the work in and actually getting things that you need and want.
All right, Derek, how about yourself?
I disagreed because number one, that whole manifestation stuff is not biblical, and even the speaking in existence is not necessarily biblical. I'm not talking about you speak life and death by the power of the tongue. I'm not talking about that, but I'm talking about you saying some words and thinking that that's going to manifest. And the question is, should we encourage it? And I'm saying, no, we shouldn't encourage it. Now, if you say you're going to pray to God and make your request be known, then that's fine. But to encourage someone to manifest and speak into existence their spouse, yeah, that ain't happening like that.
Okay,
all of us would be married.
Okay, we got some comments, and then we'll get into the dialogue on the disagreement here.
If God is the source of all, go ahead.
No, you're fine. Go ahead.
If God is the source of all power, then why manifest? Preach.
Okay, anybody want to comment on that? You can get the next comment ready if you want to, Enos.
Nah, that's the last one. That's fine. That's the last one.
Okay, all right, cool. So we got a disagreement here, and it's interestingly enough for the audience out there and the panel, people who are just tuning in, it's split down the gender line. Isn't that pretty interesting right there? What's going on with that? We'll get to that a little bit later on. So let's go ahead and start it up now. Out of the four ladies who have who agreed with the manifestation, what do you think about Enos and Derek's point? Who wants to go first? Crystal, Karen, Patty, Christine, who wants to go first here?
I don't think that any of the ladies, any of us believe in manifestation. We're more so talking about praying,
speaking into existence.
Speaking into existence, making our requests be made known unto God. Okay,
well, let let me ask this. Thanks for that clarification, Christine. Let me ask this question. I'm gonna go around real quick. Patty, is prayer and speaking into existence the same thing?
That's the question.
Yes or no, if you don't mind.
No.
You can just yes or no. Okay, no. Okay, Christine, is speaking into existence and praying the same thing? Yes or no?
No.
Okay, Karen, is speaking into existence and praying the same thing?
No.
Crystal, is speaking into existence and praying the same thing?
No.
Enos, is praying and speaking into existence the same thing? I switched it up on him. Let's see if we catch him up.
Nah.
Derek, is prayer and speaking things into existence the same thing? You're on mute.
No, it's not.
Okay, so who here believes in speaking things into existence? Patty, do you believe that?
No, not necessarily.
Christine, do you believe in speaking things into existence?
I would say yeah. I believe
Okay, Karen?
by
Yeah.
faith.
I
Okay,
would say
Karen.
that. I
Okay, and
think
Crystal.
what you
Sorry, go ahead. Yeah, Crystal, go ahead. We'll get back to you, Karen, on that. We'll get back to you.
No.
Chris, no? Okay, Derek, you believe in speaking things into existence?
No.
And Enos, do you believe in speaking things into existence? Okay,
Yes, sir.
so for those who do believe, I think we have Christine and Karen who said they do believe in speaking things into existence. Can you explain why the audience should believe in speaking things into existence? Christine can go first, and then Karen can go afterwards. In 30 seconds or less.
God gives us the authority over certain things, over things in our life, and we can speak those things.
Okay, do you have a particular text that you're basing that off of, or?
Give me a second. You go
Okay,
to the
no
next
problem.
person.
Karen, what about for yourself?
I believe that we do have authority. I believe that we have power too. God has given us strength and given us power. And I believe what you say, and if you want it to come to pass, you should speak it. Speak those things as if they were to come
Okay.
and they exist. I think speaking, if you want something, but in faith, if you have faith and you speak it and you believe it, I believe it should come to pass. I'm a strong believer in speaking things in existence.
I appreciate you sharing that, Karen. Is there a particular, because you're stating what you believe, and we all appreciate that, but can you give the audience a little bit of why you believe it? Like, so if they want to research on their own and look it up for themselves, can you help them out with that a little bit, please?
No, I just believe it's power in the tongue, and whatever you confess out of your mouth and say should come to
Okay.
pass.
Okay, there we go. Okay, Enos or Derek or both of you, however you want to do it.
Yeah, I just want to just.
Why do you not believe in speaking things into existence?
Well, first I want to address that's interesting that for the viewers that Karen says she believes it, but she don't have any evidence, and that's fine. But that has to be noted. The reason, and for the context of the show, we're talking about spiritually ugly or spiritually attractive, and we in the Western Hemisphere. So for Christians, speaking for Christians, that's against your the Bible's beliefs. Prayer is more being vulnerable, trusting versus manifestation, speaking stuff to existence. You empowering yourself. So the reason I don't believe it, I haven't seen a lot of evidence that's considered what they call, I won't even say a soft science, but it's not a lot of strong evidence to say that this is true. It's called the term unfalsifiable. You can't disprove it or prove it, and that's my reasons why I don't believe it.
Okay, Derek, it's on you now.
Well, the reason that I don't believe it is because when you look at the scriptures, you can just look at one of the disciples when he had the thorn and he was asking God to get rid of it. Now here's a person who's walking with God. Faith is at the top of the mountaintop, and God did not remove that thorn. His grace was sufficient. So if we had the power to manifest and or speak into existence stuff, we would have examples in the Bible of being able to do that on demand. Now, I know there are some where the guy prayed for it to stop raining. That's an entirely different thing than to say, I can manifest my wife. I can speak her into existence. No, I can't, because if I could, trust me, I'd have did that long time ago.
So real quickly, just for the panel, before we get back to the dialogue about the topic, does anybody have any examples of somebody manifesting their spouse in the Bible? Anybody?
You might answer that question again. I didn't hear you.
I said, does anybody have an example on the panel of somebody manifesting and or speaking their spouse into existence? Okay. Just curious about that. Okay, so we have right now Derek saying it doesn't exist, and Eno saying that speaking things into existence doesn't exist, and we have two people that are saying yes, it does. Karen, what is Derek missing in this conversation, and what is Enos missing in this conversation?
Faith, certain faith. When you speak things into existence, you have to believe it. Do you believe everything that you're thinking about or you want? I think faith. You have to have incredible faith to speak things in existence. If you want something to happen, you have to speak it and you have to believe it. Healing.
Okay, so what do you think about the specific examples that he gave? Do you think those, because he's saying that the Apostle Paul had prayed for a thorn to be removed from his side, and he prayed to God as a man who people were healed when he walked by their shadow of him, and he healed people, and he had a lot of faith and he believed God. He actually was met Christ on the road to Damascus, and he's saying that he prayed and believed, and yet God did not heal him, so he couldn't manifest or speak into existence as healing because God didn't want that to happen. So Karen, do you think that's a good example? Do you think that proves what he's saying or no? And then Christine, will get to you next.
No, I think it's a lot of example in the Bible when God walked and he healed everyone. I mean, there's no respect of a person, but I do believe that it's more than examples. There's numerous examples of people being healed in the Bible.
That's not
okay.
I'm thinking of
let's see what Christine has to say real quick here.
I'm thinking of the example of, I believe it was a captain.
Well, hold on real quickly. Before you go to your example, which we definitely want to hear, can you address Derek's example really quick? Derek gave an example, and he's saying that's proof that, so you mind dealing with his example? Do you need him to share it again?
Yes.
Derek, do you mind sharing with the panel and the audience your example? And just make it concise if you can.
Yeah. The Apostle Paul, who walked with Christ, who people were healed in his shadow. The Apostle Paul, his faith is at the highest of highest during that time. And he had a thorn, and he asked God, and he prayed, and he spoke, and God did not remove it. God said, "My grace is sufficient." So that's my biblical reason as to if we had the power to do it in and of ourselves, then what do I need God for? What do I need his plan for if I can manifest it?
So he's saying in a nutshell that Paul spoke it and it still didn't come into existence.
Correct. We don't have the power to do it of ourselves. And that example that God was showing that his grace was sufficient. But there are also other examples, which I was going to bring up, like the captain who came to Jesus to heal, I don't remember if it was his son or
his servant.
His servant
daughter or something.
At his house. He said, "I don't even need you to come, but I know that you can do it."
He was asking Jesus to do that.
So real quickly, Derek, can you address that really quick, and then Christine, you can take it back.
Yeah, that he was acknowledging Christ's power, and he was understanding it as a captain. So he's saying, "Look, you don't need to come see her. You can just speak the word."
So real quickly, Derek, are you saying that? So Derek, can Jesus speak things into existence?
100%. Everything is here because of him.
Okay. Jesus gives us the same authority and power.
He does.
Are y'all able to share where Jesus gave us the power to speak things into existence?
It's scriptures in the Bible that some scriptures that talks
I mean, Luke,
I can open my. I guess I can get my Bible.
Because we know that all things were made through and from
Luke
Christ. So we
10:19.
know. Sorry, go ahead, Christine. Say that again.
Luke 10:19.
Mhm.
Behold, I give unto you power to tread on serpents and scorpions and over all the power of the enemy.
That's not the same thing.
But is that speaking about speaking things into existence?
Not per se, but it's over. God gives me power and authority over everything.
I'm gonna address something real quick.
Mhm.
Hold on, Enos.
You're fine.
If we had that power, the ability to speak things into existence, if we, the individual down here, where does God play in that?
Well, can I say something?
Yes, please do.
Okay.
If he's given me the power and
Oh, sorry,
authority
after Christine.
for
Sorry,
his
I'm sorry.
glory, it's not of me. It's not of my own ability. It's him working through me.
We're saying two different things now.
No, this is the point that I'm making. That it's him working through me.
Okay, let me say it this way. I think you guys are y'all's manifest and y'all's speaking into existence. They sound the same. They don't really sound different. If you're saying I pray to God and I let my request be known, then you are putting your request out loud into God's hands. What you guys are saying is that you have the power to manifest it. You have no power to manifest it.
Let me ask it this way. Maybe this will help out.
I'm not saying that I have the power.
Okay,
That's
I'm
not
sorry.
All right, Christine. Thanks.
Can I say
So Christine
something?
so Christine's saying she didn't have the power. It's God who has the power. So Karen, go ahead.
Yes,
Okay.
I agree with her because he has given us his spirit that lives in us, that manifests in us, that give us the power through his spirit, his might, okay,
Yes.
his strength.
Yes.
You know, not by my will, but
Not
by
by my
his
might, not by
spirit
my
and by
power,
his
but by
strength.
his spirit.
I got
Yes.
a question for everybody then, real quickly. Is it possible for you to speak something and you really believe it, you have full faith into it, and then God still vetoes it? I want to go with Patty first.
Absolutely.
Is that pop?
Yes.
Enos?
Absolutely.
Derek?
Absolutely.
Karen?
No question, yes.
Crystal?
Absolutely.
Christine?
Yes, it's by his will.
So if we're saying that, I don't know if we're that much different from each other on this point, because we're all saying the same thing, is we can say whatever we want, but at the end of the day, God can veto it, meaning the true power is always in God. So I want to give one verse to really reaffirm what we're all saying here, is that the book of James talks about the arrogant businessman. And he says, do not be like the arrogant businessman who says, tomorrow I will go do this, or I will go do this. Say, if the Lord wills, I will do this. So he's making it clear right there that we don't have the power to speak things into existence, because it still has to go through God to actually go into existence. So we have the power to speak, but bring it into existence is going to have to go through another process. And just like anybody who's had a job where you can suggest certain things, you can put things in a suggestion box, but you don't have the power to make that exist or manifest, whatever word you want to use, because a greater authority has to actually approve it for it to become a reality. And if we're all saying that, we're just splitting hairs on the differences here, because I think Derek's point or Enos's point, and correct me if I'm wrong, is that you can say whatever you want to say. At the end of the day, just like with Paul, when he prayed for it, or when the arrogant businessman said, I would do this, at the end of the day, it's the Lord who will will it to happen, or say, you know what, no, you're not getting that, or that's not going to happen. Which would mean ultimately that God is the one who has the power to actually bring things into existence. You have to be the last stop for you to bring it into existence, but you're not the last stop. It still has to go through God. So Christine, Karen, Crystal, Patty, Enos, Derek, who has a disagreement with that point?
No, I agree. No disagreement.
Karen,
we got
Christine, Crystal, Patty.
we got a funny comment.
I agree.
Okay, let's go through some of these comments.
If we could speak things into existence, we'd be extinct already.
Shout out to Help the Bear, man. Always support.
But you know what? Can I say this as a final word, unless you have something else, Vulcan? Is now that we've kind of discussed this and got to the root part, can we all agree? Because the word I want to point out in the question is encourage. Like, I wouldn't encourage anyone to speak into existence nothing. What I would encourage is to pray, and if the Lord wills you to have that husband, because you know what? His thoughts are not our thoughts. So you might be asking for this, and this, and he's like, nah. I got this guy for you. But if you think if you're going to speak the guy you want into existence, you may be single for a long time.
Always,
Absolutely right. So let me go
always,
through.
always will.
Okay, so let me go through this right here. I have a question. Let's go back around again just to see where we're at right now. So, Patty, do you still maintain your position? Do you think that people should be encouraged to manifest or speak their spouse into existence?
I do not.
Okay, Karen.
I do, but I do, but his will needs to be done. But I do believe that I should be able to speak things in existence with his will. Not my will, but his will. But I would still like to speak some things in existence for through his will. I do believe it. I still
Okay.
believe it.
Got you. Crystal, how about yourself?
No, I'm not going to encourage anybody to manifest or speak into
Okay.
existence.
Okay,
Yeah.
Enos, what about you?
No.
Derek
Absolutely not.
and Christine.
Yep, again, I do believe in, I can, by his will and by faith, speak things into existence.
All
Wait a minute.
All right.
Wait.
Go ahead, Derek. Go ahead.
You can't agree with both things.
But why not?
You can't agree that God is the final say, but then turn around and say you believe that you could do it.
Contradiction.
And Karen, you kind of said the same thing.
I
Yeah.
did say the same
Yeah.
thing, and I'm going to tell you.
Again, because
when-
like I said, God has given me power and authority.
Not like that. That
Well,
when James.
I understand what you're saying,
Welcome.
Derek. I do.
Oh, that's right.
But I believe sometimes the Bible says we have not because we don't ask. We have to ask. Sometimes we're going to our Father.
Okay.
We're going to our Father. It's like Matthew chapter 7, or I can't remember
That's right.
if you ask for a fish, would you get a stone or okay?
I know what you mean.
But
I know.
that sounds
Okay,
more like a
I
request.
can't. What I'm trying to say is,
You're what you're saying now is you're still proving my point. You guys are saying that God is the final say over here, and then you turn right around and say, "But I have the power over here because He gave it to me."
because He tells
You
us
can't have both
Why can't you?
because the Bible doesn't teach that you have both. That was the purpose of James, Vulcan going over James when he was talking about the guy saying, "Hey, don't say what you are gonna do. Say if the Lord wills." There's the teaching right there. So for me to say, I'm gonna have a 6-foot wife. She's gonna have this color skin. She's gonna have this, and she's gonna have that. There's no power in that, in and of myself.
Well, I don't pray like that. I don't ask for a husband.
Well,
like
that's
that.
speaking into existence. That's what it is.
I am going to speak things that make sense. I am going to speak things that's in His will for me to have. I'm not going to say, give me a million, a man that makes $1 million. God, if it's your will for me to be with a man with $1 million, yes. But I am going to speak things in existence.
So let me make sure I'm understanding you correctly.
His will.
You still
Through
taking
His will.
ownership of the power when you speak those in existence. Thank you for that, Vulcan. He read the scripture what James said. I mean, in the book of James, when it says, don't be like the businessman. You not speaking things in existence. You just hoping that you're hoping for His will be done. That's you don't have anything to do with that. That's why I said prayer is different from manifestation. Prayer is submitting and being vulnerable and trusting the Lord that's going to provide whatever will. I mean, let His will be done. It has nothing to do with you, But that's why I had on that.
I tell you what, the next time we get sick, don't go to God. Use that power He gave you. It don't work like that.
Yeah, that's what manifesting is, putting the power on yourself that you're doing these. Yeah.
Well, just so you know, it's nobody. Everybody's saying they don't agree with manifestation. The only thing that people are agreeing with is speaking into existence. So
Yeah,
they're saying that.
I agree with that. Even the speaking in system is still one of the characteristics of manifestation. What I'm saying is the same thing. Although they say they don't agree with it, but the way they're describing it is manifestation is explained. So yeah,
okay.
I should have clarified that. Go ahead.
And so Christine and Karen, maybe this can be a point of agreement here. You're saying that somebody can petition God and speak what they want to come to pass out loud, but are you saying they should end it with, as the Lord wills?
Your will be done.
Yes.
Okay,
Exactly.
so it's possible that they can intend to speak it into existence and it still not happen because God says no.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so then at the end of the day, I think this may just be a point of reason here. I think what Derek and Enos are saying is that if at the end of the day you can speak it and it still not happen, then it's not really your power of speaking things into existence. It's God's power to make what you say come to pass if He thinks it, if it aligns with His will.
It's never our power. It's not my power.
So we don't have the power to speak things into existence. We have the power to speak, and God has the power to bring it into existence. Can we all agree on that part? Christine, Karen?
Yeah.
Look at that, a Vulcan soapbox, y'all. This is a heavily debated topic on the internet right now. We just did a really good job here. I got a good panel today. Okay, so we have comments, Enos?
Yes, sir. Help the Bear says Karen sounds like she likes her version of the Bible better.
Karen, do you want to address that?
It's okay.
Okay, any more comments, Enos?
Yes. Derek, you can oh, Derek's not on. Okay, so yeah,
I'm sorry. I'll read it. Yeah. There are way too many Christians disappointed because of this speaking into existence thing.
Yeah.
They really are.
That's the real gaslight. Let's talk about it.
Okay, anybody want to address that comment right there? Yeah, anybody want to speak? Why are Christians disappointed when it comes to the speaking of existence thing?
Wait, say that again.
Why are Christians disappointed when it comes to the speaking into existence thing? Anybody have a comment on that? All right, well, I'll go. Derek, it sounds like you look like you want to say something, Derek.
Well, I wanted the ones that believe it to say it. Then I was going to sit back. Go ahead, Vulcan.
Yeah, I just said it earlier. I think that's a good example of what gaslighting is when you speak yourself to you're saying you believe in is speaking things to existence and actually could have some harmful effects on your mental when it doesn't actually happen. So I know we mentioned gaslighting earlier, so that's why I mentioned that. But yeah.
Yeah, I think that you bring up a really good point, So before we go to the next question, I'll just give my 2 cents on this topic. We've all found a point of agreement here, which I can definitely appreciate because as it's mentioned here in the comments, this is a major point of disappointment. When people in the pulpit are teaching that people can speak things into existence, that's both parts. That's a speaking and the bring it into existence. That's 2 parts that they're saying that they can do. They run afoul of the fact that the only time we see in the scripture that's mentioned is God speaks things ex nihilo, meaning out of nothing. God speaks things into existence out of nothing. So great example that Christine gave was Jesus, who was God in the flesh, speaking things into existence. There is no mention in the Bible of anybody that wasn't God speaking things that were not into existence. You have examples where God may tell a prophet like Ezekiel to speak to the dry bones. But outside of that, Everybody else is only able to do what God allows them to do. So for something to pop into existence, it has to go through God first, then it's able to become a real thing in the real world. So we can petition and we do things in line with God's word, and it lines up with his will, then it can be manifest. But the power is always on God's side. He has the power to speak things into existence. We have the power to speak. And that's an important distinction we have to make sure we never forget, because people will get disappointed when they're speaking things into existence. You got people that are writing on their vision board, I want a man who's 6'3" with a six-pack and a six-figure income, and he loves to watch Bridgerton, but he also loves to serve and protect and does all the guy stuff. He knows how to fish and live off the grid just in case the government goes crazy. And we realize a lot of times the guy who likes Bridgerton doesn't like to go fishing like that. So just keep that in mind. We got to understand that, we can have our perceptions and our beliefs that we want to have about what can happen. We can write, we can petition, but at the end of the day, we have to go based off of what God gives us as examples to follow of what kind of man or woman we should be looking for. And sometimes that person comes in a package we do not expect. But that doesn't mean that it's not for us and from God. So with that, what's the next question?
Next question. All right, Derek.
Which coupling model is best for the church and society? Modern dating, courtship, or an arranged marriage? Yikes.
Okay, let's take the question off so I can see who's on there real quick, Enos. All right, and we'll have Christine go first. Which of the three do you think is best? Modern dating, courtship, or an arranged marriage?
Definitely not modern dating.
Okay, so it's two left. Which one are you going to pick? Courtship or?
I'm going to go with courtship.
Okay, I appreciate that. Patty, for you, which of the three do you think is best for the church and society?
Courtship.
Okay, Karen?
Courtship.
And Crystal?
Courtship.
Okay, Enos?
Arranged
Get canceled today, buddy.
I think that's best.
Arranged? Okay, and then Derek?
I'm going with arranged marriage.
Okay.
No, I'm just kidding. Nah, I'm kidding. I'm going with courtship.
You go with courtship. Okay. Let's go with Patty. Why do you say, you said courtship, right?
I did.
Okay, and 20 seconds or less, why courtship?
Because I don't like the other two. No, I'm just kidding.
Hey, let's be real. Tell the truth, shame the devil, right? So that's what you got for that one? That's why?
I mean, I definitely think arranged marriage is not well. I mean, I know it served its purpose when it did, and it's not anymore. And the dating is not. So the courtship is actually the rules and the regulations. I can't remember them all, but I feel that those are more into the Christian church.
Okay, Christine. What about for you? Why do you say courtship?
Yep. It was definitely the lesser of three evils for me.
Okay.
Also, I do know quite a few people who had arranged marriages and they worked fine for them.
Okay. Crystal.
Modern dating is hookup culture. Arranged marriage to me is things that they still do in other countries, and courtship seems like it aligns more in being a Christian.
Okay, and then Karen, for yourself.
I agree with everyone is saying. I agree with that. I believe.
Okay.
In
And before we bring in the black sheep in this, with Enos, Derek, go ahead and why did you pick courtship? Or you picked the courtship, right?
I'm with Crystal. I mean, with Christine. It's the lesser of the three evils. I would have to know some more parameters with the arranged marriage because I might lean that way. But right now in this Western world, Christian living in America, I got to go with courtship.
Okay, Enos, you got her matching neck right now, man. What's going on?
I'm gonna just take this risk.
You are the melanated sheep right now, the heavily melanated sheep.
Just I guess examine the evidence. Just the way this country is, the way it is now culturally, we have got so far from the way marriage was and our values were for marriage in the past. So I'm saying the reason I said that arranged marriage is probably, I think, is better for today, because if you think about some other, what's the way I want to find out, some of the reasons why people do arranged marriages. A lot of times the family are closer because it's a family dynamic. You have both families agree to this, keeps families close. So that means you have the support. It reduces societal pressures for the women and men. If you look biblically, marriage wasn't for love; it's more duty. So that's something easier to navigate, and it's just a lot of evidence to show that people that have arranged marriages in other cultures and other countries, their marriages tend to last longer. So,
okay, does anybody? Okay, so who disagrees with what Enos said? That could be Patty, Derek, Karen, Crystal, or Christine. Who has a disagreement? Karen, you disagree with what he said?
I don't disagree. I mean, if I could do an arranged marriage, I probably would, the way society is and the way this world is today.
Yeah.
I mean, if I could get someone to arrange a marriage for me, yes. And
so are you changing your mind? Because initially you picked courtship and he said an arranged marriage, and now you're saying you don't disagree.
What that young man is saying, I mean, it makes sense. I mean, the times that we're living in now, it is a different times, yeah.
Okay,
you
I appreciate
really don't
that.
know whether you're male or female according to what the world is saying now. So it is kind of scary here.
Okay, Patty, do you agree or disagree with what Enos said? Do you still maintain courtship, or do you think arranged marriage is better for the church and society?
I agree with what he said, but I still maintain courtship.
So why is courtship better than arranged marriage for society and the church?
Honestly, I don't think I could trust somebody. I just don't.
So you're saying it's personal to you, because we're talking about just society.
Yeah. Well, yeah, exactly. That's personal to me. For society.
And for the church.
I don't know if I
Let me ask it this way. Do you think we'll have better outcomes for marriage for the church and the society if it was arranged or if there was courtship or modern dating?
Yeah, I switched. I'm going to arrange.
The arranged.
Yeah.
Okay, so Christine, what about for yourself?
Better outcomes
for the church and for the society. And let me just help people out real quick when I mean better outcomes, because we have a lot of statistics on this topic. We're talking about criminality. We're talking about raising up godly children. We're talking about literacy rates. We're talking about income-wise. We're talking about less teen pregnancy. We're talking about all these different things, these outcomes that affect us every day. When you're at the ATM, you got to look behind your back. You got to make sure nobody's looming around you when you're at the ATM. Which family structure is going to lead to the best outcome for the church and society? Modern dating, courtship, or arranged marriages? Christine, do you agree with Enos or do you disagree with him? Open soapbox.
Oh. Someone is not gonna like this now.
Oh, somebody's gonna be mad.
You won't like my marriage if it's arranged.
Like I said, I know plenty of people who have arranged marriages and they work. So
what's your thoughts for society? Which one is going to lead to a healthier church and a healthier society? Arranged or courtship, as you previously stated?
I guess I could change to arranged marriage.
Okay, and Crystal, what about for yourself?
I'm like 50-50 between the courtship and the arranged marriage.
50-50. He pays for the date, you pay for the date second? Oh, no, that's a different show. Different show. Sorry, I had flashbacks, y'all. I got
No,
PTSD.
no,
All right,
No.
Crystal, go ahead.
I'm thinking about the arranged marriages and, the success rate and the way that they, lead the family and the Christian principles. I don't know. Maybe I might change my answer to arranged marriage as well.
Okay, I got a question for the panel real quick and the audience out there. And so we have comments. Definitely put them on the screen and let it be known.
Range. Others just what?
Just put him on the screen, but let him finish his thought though.
So which one do we see represented in the scriptures more? Modern dating, which obviously we're not going to see because it's modern dating, courtship, or arranged marriages? Patty, which one do you see in the text?
Arranged marriages.
Christine, which one do you see in the text?
Arranged marriages.
Derek, which one do you see in the text?
Arranged marriages.
Enos?
I want to ask some more stuff, but go back around. Arranged marriages. I want to ask
Karen?
Arranged marriages.
Crystal?
Arranged marriages.
Okay, now if we see arranged marriages in the text, why is there this apprehension from all of us on the panel and in the society when it comes to arranged marriages?
Ooh, I know.
Because it takes our
I think it's the whole idea of someone else picking your mate for you.
Okay. You know what's interesting about that, and I still want to go around, is that everybody loves to talk about Boaz. And that's exactly what happened in the Boaz and Ruth, right? Ruth and Boaz situation. It was picked for her, a kinsman redeemer. So I hear people preach on that, and women say, "I want to find my Boaz." But that was an arranged setup.
Yep. You know what's funny? I think if we can eliminate in our minds the negative that we may think with arranged marriages, I think if we can eliminate that, arrange is I'm 100% on board with that right now, because I'm just thinking right now it's we got Crystal, Karen. No, I need the faces, homie.
Yeah, my bad.
Crystal, Karen, Patty, all of you guys on the screen right now and the ones that are watching. I need all of y'all to go find that person, and I need you to arrange me. I'm going to take it.
See, I
spoke it into existence. Like, go make that.
Okay.
And I got y'all's first client right there for the arranged marriage.
It shall be given unto you.
Can I say something? I think arrange is intimidating a little bit because the word itself, because I have to make sure that the person that they pick or choose thinks similar to my beliefs in the way I feel.
But
So
that's the whole idea of arrange.
That's the purpose. And I want to address what Patty said, because Patty said she just doesn't trust. That's why the question said she doesn't trust. Oh, that's why the question says for church and society,
right?
Because it's a community effort, right? So you got your family that have an assessment. They both, I'm just saying, it's rules what they do. Both families on agreement. So you could say we have to have. Karen said we have to have our same values. The values will be aligned up because both parties came to agree. These are the stipulations. You got shared values. You have culture, people that's really big in culture. You can maintain your culture, and you have a good support system because both families came together. The church came together. The society's all in agreement that this is what's best for society. So, and then you have clear expectations. When you are courtshiping, a lot of people come with their own ideologies, so it's not really clear what the goal is and what marriage really means. So that I just wanted to elaborate why I think we should start considering that for our families. But
Well,
okay, go ahead, Karen. Go ahead.
I agree, because my son is coming down from Alexander, Virginia, and it's this young lady in church that I really like. So I told him I wanted him to introduce. Yeah, I mean,
you know what's funny about what you're saying, Karen? I think a lot of times in these conversations, we think of ourselves as the ones getting the marriage arranged for, instead of being the ones arranging it for somebody that we're responsible for.
Yeah.
Right.
So think about a daughter or a son or a
Yeah.
nephew or a niece.
Mhm.
Who do you think would do a better job picking a spouse for them?
His
Their
mother.
family and their church, or their friends and them?
Yeah.
Oh.
When it says that foolishness is bound in a child's heart.
Wow.
Mhm.
Look, he's looking.
Think about your preference and taste of the man when you were 15, 16, all the way up to like 23, 24, and what you think is important in a spouse now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Exactly.
All right.
Hey,
Well,
Vulcan.
look. Yes, sir.
At this point.
The global divorce rate for arranged marriages is 4 to 6%.
Wow.
That's why I said, yeah, more successful. Yeah.
Wow. That's
Arrange me. I'm doing a TikTok tomorrow. Arrange.
That's at
Okay.
That
Derek
is-
Bain at TikTok. At
Derek,
Derek Bain at
am I
TikTok.
gonna if I do this, am I gonna get a finder's fee? Because
Ooh, that's up to
yes,
Annie.
definitely.
Wait,
Yes.
I'm
I'm gonna
pretty.
say a nice big old prayer for you.
Definitely, because he's raised in the church. He's an aerospace engineer. Really nice, humble child. Yes, yes. He would be someone's really good Boaz.
Hey, your fee is going to be the successful marriage that I will have with this person that you introduced me to. That will be your fee.
Y'all
We
think
talked
about all
we talked about unconditional love earlier in that, Crystal.
y'all think about all the relationship woes that people deal with a 50-50. Can you go on a coffee date? All these things. Wouldn't that be alleviated if the parents just figured that stuff out?
Yeah.
In the family and the church, if you don't have that kind of a family support.
Right.
You know what though? You're now when we think about it with our kids, that may be so, but what about when you're 53 years old? We're all over 40.
Well, I want to say this real quick. I want to say this point. There's statistics on this part right here, and this is maybe a little bit more heavy than we're prepared for. But what the studies show is that when people have had less than 5 intimate partners,
women, not
yes,
yeah.
men. Yes, sorry, women. When women have had less than 5 intimate partners, their chance of happiness in a relationship skyrockets. Once you've had more than 5, it drastically dwindles. So, and women have a bonding hormone in order to bond with the person they're with. So that's why look at ancient Israel, all the way throughout the world, people tend to marry at young ages. And when they do so, if they haven't had that many intimate partners, typically they're virgins or very close to virgins, mostly virgins, they're able to bond with the person they're with. That person's been vetted to be somebody that's suitable for them in a lot of different ways, and they're able to bond with them. So with women that are in their elder years that have had a lot more experiences with men, the statistics show that it's a lot more difficult for them to bond to that guy.
And that's scientific. And I want to add biology, but even mentally, less romantic ideologies. Yeah.
So,
what if you? I'm sorry, I read the comments.
I mean, what is because the women have had less experience physically that she bonds better when she gets. Well, yeah, I could see that. Yeah.
Shout out to Vulcan. All right,
Where
so
you
Heather M said arranged
marriages. But if you actually look at it from an angle, arranged marriages are actually happening. Where? I'm going there. Send me there.
Right. That's the third world country, something like that in India, maybe.
I'm out. I'll be back.
Hello, can y'all hear me? Can y'all hear me?
Yes.
We can now.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay, good. Yeah, sorry about that. I thought you thought you went out. It was me.
Yeah.
Yeah. Actually, go down to help the bear. He's on this subject now.
I don't have.
It's the one where he says, "What if?"
Oh, I missed that. Shout out to help the bear. Okay, that's the one he's like.
Yeah. What if we hook up during courtship? Isn't that modern dating under the guise of better intent? You know what? I was thinking that. I was like, courtship is you still you put yourself in a position where you could do some dumb stuff only to realize he ain't the one. And now for women, that body count's adding while during your courtships. Yeah, arrange me.
Well, can I?
There.
Arrange
Somebody-
me too. Arrange me too.
Edible arrangements.
Okay.
They got the concept right.
Oh, that's hilarious.
Anybody else have anything on that question?
No, but I have another question, but hopefully you guys will get to it. 'cause it's
Okay,
been
yeah,
on my
yeah. So
thoughts.
yeah, we'll get to, don't write that down. Don't forget it. We got a few more questions. Then we'll make sure we get to your question for sure.
Well, we got one last question if you want to ask.
Oh man, we've been flying through this.
Yes, sir. Derek.
Should a male or female counselor involve their spouses in couples counseling? Yes or no, and then why? Let's handle the yes and no first. Go ahead, Patty. James, we can't hear you, Vulcan.
Yeah, let's start with Patty Rodriguez.
Can you put the question back up again really quickly? Sorry.
Should a male or female counselor involve their spouses involve their spouse in couples counseling? Yes or no?
Okay, so let's go ahead and let's start with Patty. Yes or no?
Yes.
Okay, Christine. Yes or no?
Wait a minute, I'm trying to understand this. So you have a counselor and they get their spouse involved in counseling someone that they're supposed to be counseling?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
So you think the spouse should be present if somebody is given couples counseling? Be it
No.
a friend or be it okay. And then Karen, what about for yourself?
No.
Crystal?
No.
So we got 3 no's and a yes. Enos?
That's hard to answer because if it's a female counselor, I think a husband should be let in. But if it's a husband, I don't think his wife has to be in that therapy session. So,
okay.
I don't think so. I don't think
We threw a twist. All right, Derek, what for you?
Dang, you said it before I did, bro.
Okay.
I second that.
So we got like 3 different responses here. We got a yes, we got a no, and then we got yes if it's a lady and no if it's a guy. Okay, so Patty, go ahead and explain why you say what you say. First, state again what you believe. You said, and then tell why.
So mine was a yes because of what Derek and said, for the same reason, because I feel like if it's the same sex or the opposite sex, they should be the spouse should be present.
Oh no, that's not what we're saying, sweetheart.
That's
No?
not what they're saying, Patty.
Oh.
That's not what Derek's saying, at least. So go ahead, Patty. What you say?
Yeah.
So maybe I'm misunderstanding the whole question, I feel.
So why do you say, so you were saying you were going to piggyback off their why, but their why is different than yours, so you're going to state your own why. Why do you believe that it's was a yes or a no?
So mine was a yes
And why is it a yes for you?
because it's a couples therapy. So that's why I said yes for both spouses to be present.
Okay, what if it's just therapy? Should the other person be involved?
No, I don't believe so.
Okay. Well, I'm saying if a couple's coming to that person for counseling,
Mm-hmm.
should the counselor have somebody else there with them? Their spouse?
No, in that case, no.
Okay. Christine?
No.
Why?
Unless both husband and wife are both counselors, why that's unethical. That's against professional. You can't have your spouse come in and while you're counseling someone.
Well, let's say that this is not professional counseling. This is just people in the church.
Oh, you're talking
Or a
about just
friend.
at the church. Oh, okay.
Yes.
Well, if the couple is looking for to be counseled by a couple, the couple should decide whether or not they want to be counseled by a couple or whether they don't mind being counseled by a male or the female.
So you're saying it's just about a preference on the couple at that point?
I believe so, yes.
Okay. Karen, what about you? Do you think that if you're getting counseling from somebody's getting counseling from somebody, or friends, or somebody in the church that does it, should they have their spouse there when they're doing that counseling with that couple?
I think if it's my husband and myself, and I'm speaking to the person that's supposed to be counseling us, no, because I think it should be done in confidence. It depends. The one person that's counseling us, whatever is said in that room should be between my husband, me, and that one person.
So it just make sure I understand what you're saying. They shouldn't share that information with the spouse.
Absolutely not, unless she has some counseling and they're doing it together as a ministry, husband and wife.
Okay.
Yes.
Crystal, what about yourself?
Yes, if they're going to counseling together, they should be together. But if I'm going to counseling or he's going to counseling, surely we would have open communication and discussion over this. And then I should be able to go to counseling by myself and vice versa, unless this was agreed upon and we were going together.
Okay, so if you're going,
Your volume cut out, buddy. There you go.
I know y'all can hear me. I'm putting it back in here. It should come back.
You're back.
Oh, I'm back now?
Yeah.
Okay, yes. So if it's Crystal, if it's you and your spouse, does the person that's counseling you, they're not a professional counselor, just a family that, or a guy or a girl who thinks that they're good at counseling and offers those services, should they have their spouse there?
What was that?
Well, to be honest, I'm only going to go to somebody who's qualified. I'm not going to go to somebody who thinks that they're qualified. I'm only going to someone who is qualified. So if
Excellent
I'm going to
point.
a qualified person, then no, they don't need their spouse there unless I am seeking counsel from like a married couple. Then if I'm doing that, then probably my spouse is going to be with me.
Yeah, your spouse is definitely going to be with you, but the married couple, do they both need to be there?
Well,
I mean,
yes or no?
If I'm seeking as a married couple, then yes, I would like to seek from a married couple.
Why is that?
Surely they have a different experience, take on whatever it is that me and my husband are seeking counseling for. Probably we would seek someone who has ministered to many couples. Maybe they have their own couples ministry. Mm-hmm. And so we would go there together to have them, kind of use their guidance for us.
So let me ask it this way, then, just to make sure we're all on the same page with the question. So you and your spouse are looking for some type of marital counseling, and then somebody hears that. It's like, hey, look, I'm willing to, somebody who's married, and they're saying, I'm willing to help you, go through your marriage and talk through things with you and help you see things a different way and work through that together. When you show up to that session, do you expect them to be there with their spouse? You're with your spouse. Do you expect them to be there with their spouse?
Yes, because I am going to be seeking another married couple's expertise and guidance to help me and my spouse. Yes. Okay,
Karen, do you agree with Crystal on that?
I don't understand. Well, I'm not going to say I don't understand the question.
Mm-hmm.
The question is, if I'm seeking counseling, right? If I'm seeking counsel, from what was the question again? I'm sorry.
So,
Sorry.
well, we'll get back to you on the question again.
Right.
But so those who heard Crystal's perspective, Derek and Enos, do you agree or disagree with Crystal on that?
Well, you kind of made me change my whole thing altogether with I don't like counselors, period, but to think of a friend or a family member, that really makes me, I'm not doing that at all. So I don't know, I might have to, I don't know how to answer it because I personally wouldn't do it in any way, shape, or form. If the question was a professional counselor, which I wouldn't go to that either, but if a professional counselor was bringing his spouse or her spouse, I ain't doing that.
Yeah,
either.
for sure. I think we all agree on the professional part, that because you're paying somebody, and in that which case, you know, that there's guidelines and stuff on that, when privacy and confidentiality and stuff. But as far as like just informal church, people in the church, which is primarily how most counseling happens. Can you hear me? Can y'all hear me?
Yes, sir.
Primarily how most counseling happens in this world is informal. Your family, your friends,
Yes.
you know, people that you're close with and stuff. Hear things going on, know your desires and some of your vulnerabilities, and they offer that kind of help. And so I'm asking that situation. Crystal's saying that if her and her spouse decide they want to get some counseling from somebody, she's going to expect to see both people there for the counseling session if it's informal like that.
Yes, I agree with that. If it's informal like that, yeah.
Okay, Enos, what about you? Do you agree with Crystal that you would expect to see both people there?
No, I disagree.
Okay, Christine?
Yeah, if it's informal like that, I would prefer that my spouse and I would be counseled by another couple.
Okay, Karen, what about you?
I would prefer that, but just okay. I don't. Yes, if it's another couple, but no, not really. You just got to be careful that things are not taken out of context. You have to be careful when you're getting counseling.
So just to make sure I'm understanding, would you be expecting, if you and your spouse are getting a couple from another person in the church, would you expect that person have their spouse present also?
No, because I want to make sure that she has that ministry, because I
Okay.
want him to be able to keep stuff spiritually between my husband and I, not his wife. I'm sorry.
Okay, perfect. Okay, Patty, what about yourself? Do you expect that counselor to have their spouse in an informal counseling session? You're not paying for this. Is somebody offering their help for you and your spouse? Do you expect them to have their spouse there too? And you're on mute too, Patty.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, I would. Absolutely.
Okay, so we have a divide here. We have Enos saying no, and we have other people saying yes. Who are the people who are saying yes, that they expect that spouse to be there? Okay, Derek, you're okay. We got Christine. I'm gonna go with Christine on this one, and then Derek second. In 30 seconds or less, why should they have their spouse there?
I would prefer that the spouse be there because you get both perspectives on whatever the particular couple's going through. You get the male perspective and the female perspective.
Wait, well, so real quickly, you're saying it's your preference, but do they have to have them there? Or you're just saying that's just your preference?
That would be my preference.
So okay, so if they don't have it, it's fine. It's just that's just not your preference.
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
Who's saying it's beyond a preference? That I think Crystal's saying she would expect to see that there. It's not just a preference; it needs to be there, right, Crystal? Okay, so Crystal's stance a little bit stronger than yours, Christine. And so Patty, is yours more Christine level or more Crystal level?
More Christine level.
Okay, Christine.
It's a preference.
It's just a preference. It's not necessary. Now, Derek, for you, is it more Crystal or more Christine? You're on mute still.
It's preference.
Okay, preference. Okay, so we have Crystal saying it needs to be there, and then Karen and Enos who are saying that No, it doesn't need to be there. Okay, so if you can go ahead and say, Karen's already pretty much shared why. She said it has to do with if it's their ministry or not. It's about for yourself.
For myself, can you hear me? Microphone check 1 2 1 2.
Yeah, we can.
Okay, because I can hear myself. I say the reason I said that it's not needed for if it's a male counselor, because I think it's a lot of studies, not just with leadership and therapy or counseling sessions. It's the studies that support even single men do just as well with raising a family as two parents in a household. The reason I think because men esteem to logically reason, so they can pretty much handle whatever challenges or whatever advice or what recommendation whatever they want to recommend other couples to do to help them, I guess, foster a better relationship. It's not needed for their wife to be there. That's one reason. Two, if a woman is there, my reason, and unless the woman, and this is a professional counselors or
we're talking about all informal. We're talking about all informal, no professionals
okay.
here.
All right.
Because when you get into professionals, you have a confidentiality thing. That's a
Yeah.
whole different thing. You're not going
Okay.
to walk into a professional counselor and see a couple there typically, unless they're both doing that thing together.
All right. So with that being said, then informal, they don't have the proper training. You have to take, especially for women, more women tend to be more agreeable than disagreeable. So that means at times they can their emotions could be manipulated at times. So you have to take assertive training to get better at assessing different problems to foresee the best outcomes. So professionals usually have that kind of training versus informal people that's doing therapy or counseling sessions in an informal way, right? And if you don't have that kind of training, you can possibly make those sessions worse than potentially, as a higher probability is higher that you can make it worse than better. I say that. That's the best.
Karen, that sounds a lot like what you're saying as far as that might not be their ministry. Is that accurate?
Yeah, and also, you got to, based on, sometimes it can get emotional in there. So you have to be careful what the young man is saying. I would prefer just me and my husband and the one person that's doing it.
The one person. Yeah.
Okay.
So
the one person that you said that has that ministry that's been gifted in that way.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
Okay. So Crystal, what's your rebuttal to that if you have one?
I don't know. I'm just looking at it as if me and my spouse are going to seek counseling from someone, having a couple to minister, counsel us would probably benefit us than, someone, either one, a male or a female. If I was seeking counseling for myself, I don't need a couple to be there. And it could be a male or a female, as long as they were qualified.
Okay, you're saying if it was you and your spouse, you said only one needs to be there. It don't need to be two. Is that what you're saying? If you and your spouse went to a counseling session?
If me and my spouse went to a counseling session, it would be more beneficial to receive counseling or ministering from another couple.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And Enos, do you agree or disagree with that, and why?
I said earlier, I disagree because of my reasons for, like I said, we're talking about informal. So them not women or just everyday people not having that training.
So real quickly, so Crystal, what Enos and Karen are saying is that if you have a couple you got somebody who's offering to do counseling and you want that other person to come and be involved in that counseling, what Karen and Enos are saying is that other person is not the one gifted in that ministry. So they're saying that it's going to do more harm than good having them there, because what they're saying is not going to be something that's going to be as helpful for the relationship. What do you think about that?
I understand what they're saying. I'm just, like I said, I've had single counseling and I've had, couple counseling, and as a couple, it was
Do you
more
agree with their
beneficial.
point? Do you agree with their point? Or do you disagree?
I can see their side. I can see their side.
You can see
I-
it. We all can see it. Do you agree with it?
I could
You
agree
have a
with,
safe space with us.
I could agree with their side.
Okay. So if you have somebody that's in that counseling group, the couple, and they're not, another person is not gifted in that way of ministering to people who are in need of counseling, do you want them speaking in that session?
No.
Okay. So you would say, are you saying that you want their presence still there, but then for them to remain silent for the most part?
Well, they're not going to be able to remain silent, so they probably shouldn't come.
Okay. So Edos and Karen, you have successfully, won your sister over here.
Yeah. And like we said
Thanks,
earlier,
Crystal, for being able to share that. It's not easy to do that.
Thank you, Crystal. And Focus say this in the beginning of the show. This is Critical Thinker Show. I just think we all deal with this. We all are not aware of our cognitive biases, and women tend to harmonize with other women, which is a good thing. Empathize with women. I definitely think I want to encourage that. We definitely need that. But sometimes that can get in the way with actually standing on truth. Being more willing to emotionally be there for their sister or their woman instead of standing with truth, which could actually hurt their feelings. And that's what I want to caution. So to avoid all that together, it's better just the guy who esteemed logic and reason just go ahead and do the session, and he'll submit to being fair versus just talking in general now than other women. So yeah.
Let me speak to that really quick, and then Derek, Christine, and Patty, feel free to jump in. You haven't spoken in a while, but I want to say this. I have been in situations like that where I've been in counseling sessions with typically a man. There was always a man who was gifted in that area, or at least he thought he was, or the church believed he was. And I've seen it where the wife was involved, and you can see that when she would give advice, you can see the husband trying to like curtail it or trying to make it fit to what his overall narrative was, but she was not gifted in that way. She didn't study those things like he did. She wasn't as interested in those things, although she did have a good heart and wanted to help people. And she did in a lot of ways in the church, but it wasn't through communicating truth and principles in a way to help people overcome obstacles in marriage. That her articulation of it wasn't her gifting. And so she would say things that a lot of times were opposite of what she really should say, or a distraction from what should have been said. We have to remember the scriptures say that teachers will undergo a stricter judgment. So you got to think, do you want to put somebody in a situation where they have to communicate about very important things like marriage, and they're not really equipped in that way, just because they happen to be married to somebody who is? And so I've seen people say things that were like, and you see the husband trying to find ways to make it fit or make it work and all that because of the fact that that wasn't her gifting. And so we do need to keep that stuff in mind. I remember thinking in my head, like I said, why is she speaking right now when that's not her skill set? Not to say that everything she was saying, not to say that everything she was saying was unhelpful, but
Right.
a lot of things were thrown in there. And I'll give one quick example that happened. I remember there was this lady who took issue with, she had made a post online about how Christians shouldn't celebrate pagan holidays, right? And she was a new convert, and she had very zealous perspectives on that topic. And so I sent her an article from gotquestions.org, just talking about it or whatever. That's all I did. And she was new, and she was really offended by it. She got really offended by me and, said some things, some disparaging things in the comments. And I really respond. And then we went to church together, and I remember I opened the back door of the church, and she was right there looking at me. And I was kind of shocked because what are the odds of this church of 200, 300 people? You open a door and that person's looking at you dead in your face. And so I don't know what kind of face I made, but I made the face. And then later on, that person let the pastor's wife know that, hey, this person right here, was giving me a funny look, before church today. So we're having that counseling session. I didn't give her a funny look because of any offense. I just probably gave her a funny look because mathematically, what are the odds of that happening? I probably was startled or whatever the case may be. And so the girl is laying into me and sharing with the pastor's wife about how what I did was wrong. And, and she's saying, I'm not offended, while she's just profusely tearing up about the situation. And the pastor's wife goes, well, is there anything you could have did better? And I'm like, not open the door. There's nothing I could have did different. I mean, if it happened again, I would still be startled again. I handled myself well online. I didn't go back and forth. I just posted an article that explains what she's talking about, knowing that she was new. I'm actually the one who brought her to the church at the time. This was like 2011 or something like that. And so what ended up happening was the pastor's wife kept saying, is there anything you could have done differently? And I was like, not that I'm aware of. The girl cries and runs off. And then the pastor's wife was like, I was asking because if you would have said something you could have did better, it might have lessened the blow and she could have been more open. And the pastor's wife didn't realize that that's a manipulative tactic.
Yes, it is.
I can't pretend to have done something better just to make her feel more comfortable.
Yeah.
And so the pastor's wife was a great woman. She was a lady who lived her life honoring God, but that wasn't her skill set in those kind of things. And so she was impacting the woman's, lamenting, and wanted me to give some kind of manipulative, word of saying that, just to make the other lady feel comfortable, to soften their blow. And the Bible says open rebuke is better than hidden love. Mm-hmm. And those who have a rebuking tongue will receive more honor than those who have a flattering tongue. So it wasn't a time to flatter her to make her feel comfortable, but to help her understand that, hey, look, all he did was send you a article to help you understand that better. He could have just rebuked you because it was on Facebook. I could have rebuked her in front of everybody and said, this is not Christian teaching. This is not mature. And you being a new convert, maybe you should have a little bit more reservation before you start openly teaching everybody that what they're doing is wrong. Mm-hmm. I could have did that way, but all I did was send an article and say, hey, check this out. And I was taken offensively. And the way that the pastor's wife wanted to go about doing it wasn't going to be helpful. And she meant well, but that was an example of, okay, that's maybe not her ministry. And the last thing I'll say is I had a situation where a couple wanted them to do some counseling with me one time and somebody else at the time. And what ended up happening was the man was, trying to get to the bottom of it and figure things out. And the wife was saying things like, well, maybe she's like that because of her childhood and things of that nature. Mm-hmm. And it's like, well, that may or may not be true. We are, the way we are because of all types of different things, but that is not how ministry is done in the church. It's not about your childhood. It's about whether or not we're engaging in sin or things that we need to repent of, regardless of how we came to arrive at being that way. And so she was getting the sociology and modern psychology types of counseling when she probably hadn't studied to know the difference of the two, but she wasn't giving Christian counseling at that point. Wow. And it's not, and she didn't know, and nobody's ever said, hey, that person should be counseling others. But because she was married to somebody who did do counseling, she felt at liberty to share that stuff, in which case it caused more harm than good.
Mm-hmm.
Wow, that's fascinating.
Yep, that's what.
So now we're psychoanalyzing people's childhood instead of dealing with real and present sin issues that are happening on a regular basis.
Yeah.
So, do we have any more questions?
No, that's it.
Because I know Karen had a question. We got a little bit more time. We got about 8 minutes left on the clock. So, Karen, did you want to go ahead and share your question you had?
No, I think I'll save it for another time. It's kind of sticky. So
you sure? We're open to sticky.
I don't know. What time is it? Okay.
I'm a big fan of Gorilla
It's about
Glue.
that time. Do you know where your kids are? I had a question.
Okay.
Now, I'm going to make it real quick. I went into a restaurant to get some food. We were all waiting. It was very cold. And, some woman said she had a date and they were talking about, should you engage in intimacy before marriage? Okay. Most people said yes. And then the other question were, do you take on the other person's spirit when you engage intimately with that person? Do you take any of their spiritual spirits in? I know it's kind of
Well, hold on, Karen. That's a
hot.
really good question. Let's go around real quick. Patty, and this is sorry, real quickly, Karen. This is related to what is it called? There's a colloquial thing that people have always said. Soul ties. Is that akin to soul ties?
Yes.
So Patty, do you believe that you take on the person that you're intimate with spirits when you engage in intimacy with them, aka soul ties?
Absolutely.
Yes or no?
Yes.
Okay, Crystal.
Yes.
Christine.
Yes.
Derek.
Yes.
Enos.
No.
Okay.
Okay, so Patty, in 20 seconds or less, why yes?
Yes, because that's what's been taught to me. If I'm being honest, we also have gone through breaking soul ties. And so there's, to my understanding, there's a process. So I guess it could be yes and no, but in my mind, it's a yes.
Okay, Karen, why yes?
Because I believe
20
that
seconds or
when
less.
okay, I believe when you entwine and you become as one, and that's very intimacy you're sharing, I think you're becoming one. So yes, you're receiving and you're giving. I believe you do take spirit to one. Yes.
Is there any particular verse in mind that's coming to mind to support that?
I can't think of it.
Okay, Crystal, how about yourself? Why yes?
I agree with what Karen said. Yes, because you're experiencing this intimate act with somebody, and you're taking them on, and they're taking you on, and you're exchanging everything. And absolutely, I do not have a scripture in mind for it, but
But you do believe that you're taking on their attributes as well.
Yes.
Okay, Christine, for yourself.
Yes.
Okay, and why?
Transference of spirits when you're intimate with someone.
Sorry, I had an issue with my audio. So Christine, sorry, you said what was your why?
There's a transference of spirits when you are intimate with someone.
Okay, and do you have any particular text that supports that?
Not that I can think off the top of my head.
Okay, audience, we're gonna find somebody to get some scripture for you, y'all. We're not gonna leave you high and dry. Derek, what do you got?
Nah, man, I got to change my answer.
No, don't change it. Don't change it.
Stand on it.
Stand on it. Down at him.
No. Hey, this is
No,
the lesson.
it's not fair.
Here's the lesson to learn to what I'm about to do.
Don't abandon the ladies. Lay down your life for the ladies.
Here's the lesson. If it ain't in the Bible, I am not acquiescing to it. And I just was about to do it. And
what if
no.
the Pope said it?
Oh, he ain't in the Bible. Oh.
It's not in the Bible, but
You trying to get me in trouble on YouTube.
Okay. Enos, why do you say no?
Yeah, I said no earlier. You was about good thing you said that. I was going to say the same thing, and it's interesting.
What were you going to say? I don't know what you were going to say.
I said no. I was going to say because it doesn't have. Sorry about that. It doesn't have. I don't see any evidence in the Bible or any other. Well, this show is about Christian. The context of Christianity. So I don't see any evidence that you could take soul ties or take spirits with you. I haven't seen that evidence in the Bible, and I don't see any scientific evidence for it either. I have seen, maybe leave with DNA, but I mean,
so hold on, ladies. I need y'all's help right here. We got an unbeliever here that doesn't believe in soul ties and transferring of attributes. Can we educate this man on why it is the case? He's saying there's no biblical proof, and he even convinced Derek of it.
Derek, I should have said.
So Patty, Karen, Crystal, Christine, come on, help me out here.
I'll get you a scripture.
Okay. While Christine's working on that scripture, Patty, Crystal, Karen, you have anything?
No, unfortunately, I do not have any scripture based on it. that I can remember.
Because everybody I know says that. It's got to be something in there, right?
Okay, I don't have any scripture, but the mere fact that a husband and a wife becomes one when you're intimate with someone, right? So I'm a female and you're a male, and we're gonna be intimate with each other. Do we become one? Yes. You're coming to me, and I'm, you're I'm giving, you're receiving, whatever the case is. You're becoming one, entwined. We're not married yet, but we're doing the things. Am I
May
receiving
I
what
address
you're,
that?
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Enos wants to address you,
I want to
Karen.
say that.
I wanted to.
For my understanding, when two come together, when a man and wife come together, that's considered a covenant. So once you have that bond, it's deeper, But anyway, when you leave, you don't take the covenant with you. It's a covenant. Y'all came together under this covenant. You don't, there's no spirits that leave with you or this person leave. Y'all together for this one covenant.
So you're saying,
it's an oath. It's an oath.
Okay.
Yeah,
So
because
you're saying,
He said,
you're
'cause the
saying
oath.
that we're safe. We're safe. Well, I'm not saying people in general, that I believe that you
I don't
take
know if that's
spirits
somebody's
in.
background noise. Welcome.
Jay,
I do believe you share DNA, some kind of DNA. I mean,
Yeah.
when the
But
Bible
that's not
says,
spiritual, though. That's not spirit.
well, it's not
That's
spirit.
science.
It's not spiritual, but it's how you feel. I mean, it's what you believe. I mean, if I'm gonna lay down with you, uh, I just feel like, it's not spiritual. It really isn't.
So
But
you agree, yeah. So you agree that you don't.
okay, okay, it's like when you backslide and you go into the world. I mean, and you have spirits that can get.
So real quickly, Karen, Derek says he has a point. So let's see if Derek can help everybody out with this.
Yeah,
right
help
here.
me out, Derek.
Talk
Come
to me,
on.
Derek.
this is why I changed my mind. Well, two reasons. Number one, it ain't in the Bible. Number two is this.
And be careful, because Christine's cooking up some scripture right now. So be
First
careful.
thing ain't gonna find no
Christine,
scripture. She's not gonna find no
find him,
scripture.
girl.
But here's the proof. I have dated. Well, we're not gonna get into how many people I've dated in my life, but I'll give you one in particular.
That black book is like the bigger than the Bible.
Rolodex.
I dated a girl who had an abusive ex. He was as demon as they come, as narcissistic as they come. And I don't have any traits of this narcissist with me because I was intimate with her. And if I go with all the women that I've been with in my young life, I would be the most schizophrenic dude you guys have ever seen if any of them spirits or these knuckleheads they've been with were attached to me. Secrets. So yeah, there is no evidence of that, because if there were, I would absolutely be experiencing it in some kind of way, shape, or form.
Okay, we still got a little bit more time on the
different with you, because men are different, and that's why I said scientific earlier. Because if women are involved with more men, I see some studies, like I haven't seen all the studies that say they do DNA stays in a system where it could show up, the genetic could show up in a child from a previous partner.
They have a chemical.
They present partner. So that's scientific,
So real quick, let me just ask this question to clarify, Patty. Is it the same? Are you saying that's the case for women and men, or just for women, or just for men?
Good question.
That's a good question.
Okay, Karen, are you thinking about it? Karen, are you saying it's for women and for men, or just for women, or just for men?
You know what? It's women, men. I'm just saying in general. This is a spiritual thing, because what I know now, what I didn't know 20 years from now, yes, sleeping and being with someone, but what I know now spiritually, I guess it's my choice to think maybe a spirit's lurking around when I sleep with someone, because I guess what I know now, it's just all spiritual. It's a spiritual thing.
Sorry, hold on real quick, Karen. I just want to get the Crystal here. Crystal,
right?
If you were saying earlier that you do believe in soul ties, and that whenever you are intimate with somebody else, you take on their attributes, does that apply to the woman and the man, or just the man, or just the woman?
Uh-oh, you better write it down. I didn't change my mind again. I might have to
No, Enos, what are you doing over there?
Yeah, because you know what? He's right. This is not in the Bible that I know of. And also, yeah, I have not taken on any of my previous because because I might be locked up. I mean, so
Yeah, you start, guys intimate with somebody starts watching Bridgerton and loving The Notebook or something like that. Is that what we're talking about? I don't know. I just got this desire to watch The Notebook now.
I mean, I've heard people
I'm gonna go
say
get my
things
nails
like
done.
that. I've heard people say things, but take it.
Okay. Well, hold on. Christine about to put a stop to all of this right now. I'm trying to warn y'all. Now it's time for the chickens have come home to roost. Go ahead, Christine. Let us know what it is on the Vulcan soapbox.
1 Corinthians 6 and 15 and 16. I'm going to read from the NLT. Do you realize bodies are actually parts of Christ? Should a man take his body, which is part of Christ, and join it to a prostitute? Never. And don't you realize that if a man joins himself to a prostitute, he becomes one body with her?
Okay, Christine, that's what I'm talking about, bringing the heat for him. Okay, so Patty, do you believe that verse says that you take on the attributes of the person that you're intimate with, aka soul ties?
No.
Crystal?
1 Corinthians, what again?
6:15.
16.
All right.
Go ahead, Crystal.
no.
All right, Karen.
I do.
Okay,
It's not in
that's
the
fine.
Bible. I do. I'm careful. I do now. Yes.
Can I go before Enos?
I can't
Y'all
hear
see my
y'all.
y'all see my little box?
Yes.
We gonna stick tithing in here, which is a lie. We gonna stick soul ties in here, which is a lie. And anything else that we can't find in the Bible that is clear, we gonna stick it in this box, and I'm gonna cover it up, and we gonna sit it over here.
And you gotta be Jacques Cousteau. Man, that's a quote from a movie right there. So Christine, when you brought that verse up, do you believe that verse proves soul ties and or that whenever you're intimate with somebody, you take on their attributes, their traits, their characteristics, their personalities, their spirits?
It says he becomes one body with her. For the scriptures say the two are united into one. But the person, and I'm going to verse 17, but the person who is joined unto the Lord is one spirit with him. So yes, I do believe that. And I believe that's what that is saying. You become one with them. You're joined with them when you have sex with them. This is what this is talking about.
Okay, so Enos, you were the original Mohican that didn't believe in the soul ties and the AK taking on people's attributes and spirits. Are you convinced by that verse?
No, I'm not convinced.
Okay, so do you have any questions, anything for Christine?
Yeah, it says you become one flesh, but does it support you saying once they split, they still, does it say that though? Does it say that the spirit lives with them?
The disagreement is in the word one flesh. We talking about some spirits being left around.
Christine, go ahead. I'm not giving up on Christine. She got something for y'all. Go ahead, Christine.
There with that box. Show enhancements.
Y'all need to start rebuking some spirits. For real.
We
We have authority to rebuke spirits, right?
Okay, so Christine,
Your box.
what do you got?
Same thing. It's saying it's saying that your spirit is joined to this person.
Your
No.
spirits, plural, or your spirit? Is it plural or is it singular?
No, spirit, singular.
Okay, so because I guess the conversation is about spirits, plural. It's saying that you take on their spirits, not their spirit. So are you maintaining that it's saying their spirits, plural, or their spirit, singular?
Singular, spirit, their spirit. And what is their spirit? That is a part of them.
Well, every person has a spirit. So it seems like you're more agreeing with the panel now. You're saying that they don't take on spirits, they take on a spirit. Is that accurate?
Yeah, that is what I was saying. They take on a spirit.
Yeah, but
So what about so you think they're taking on whatever demons they have? Because that would be more plural spirits. Or do you think it's just a...
It depends on what their spirit is of. Is their spirit of God or is their spirit of Satan?
Oh, okay. I'm so glad she said that way.
You want to get in there, Derek?
Yes. So all of you women that are listening on YouTube and watching this, all of you that have dated a demon who cheated on you, who beat you, who did all of this stuff, are you now admitting, Christine, that you have all his demons?
I had all his demons, but you know what? God delivered me.
Amen.
Hallelujah. Wait. How did you have his demons?
Just like I said, when you sexually intimate with someone, you take on that spirit.
I'm going to share something with you. I don't know if you've ever heard it before, but when you're reading the Bible, you have a way to look at the context. And there's a word called exegesis and eisegesis.
Eisegesis, yes. And I have the Holy Spirit as well.
No, well, I understand that, but you are putting the meaning in that text. That text is literally saying you become one flesh. And actually, if you look at it deeper, because it says no, you shouldn't mix you shouldn't have sex with a prostitute. Jesus has said they are saying something different there. You know why? Because God told the prophet to marry a prostitute.
Hosea, yes, he did.
So here's my point.
Did he tell him to sleep with her before he married her?
Girl, this ain't the Western world. That wasn't the Western world.
Okay. I'm trying to tell you something. Did he tell her to sleep with her first? No, he said
what do you think
her.
wife stands for?
Marry her, so she became one with him. Marry her, not sleep with her before. He didn't say go sleep with that prostitute.
Let me ask this question real quick. Karen, you bring up a really good point, Karen. So Karen, you bring up a really good point. So he marries this prostitute, and the scripture says that she continues on prostituting. Is he taking on her spirits at that point?
No.
So she's sleeping with a bunch of men.
Because he is married to her and he's covering her. He's praying. He's praying for her.
Okay, so you're saying that he's not taking on her spirit. So it is possible to sleep with somebody who's sleeping with other people and they're saying they can resist taking on those spirits. He was able to resist that.
Was she still prostituting when she was married to him?
Yeah, she was still prostituting when she was married to him.
And God told him to go get her. She left and went to go prostitute.
To go pay 15 shekels of silver for her. Yes, he did.
And what happened after that? Did she continue to prostitute?
Yes, she did.
I got to get another box for y'all.
So real quickly, let me ask this question as we close it out. First I want the audience and everybody to understand this. When it comes to hermeneutics and biblical understanding and interpreting the text, one thing that's important, that important interpretation principle is, you see this in the text, by 2 or 3, let every word be established. So one thing you do whenever you're building a doctrine is you want to find at least 2 or 3 verses to substantiate whatever a doctrine you want to proclaim. So we have one verse right here that people aren't really convinced is proving soul ties or anything like that. Do we have another one so we can have at least a testimony of 2?
Oh, you faded out, bro. There we go. We can hear you now.
You can hear me now?
Yeah.
You hear me now?
Yeah.
Let me.
Well, but the
Yeah.
scripture, you're supposed to present yourself, your body as a temple, but yeah.
We're still talking about flesh, though. That's
So I think
flesh.
we're all in agreement that fornication is a sin, adultery is a sin, and that you shouldn't do it. The question is soul ties a man-made concept, or is it a concept that we learn from the scriptures? Is taken on other people's spirits and attributes something from man-made teachings or from the scriptures themselves? And we have one verse right now that some people believe proves soul ties and taking on spirits, but we've only heard that one so far. I think we may have we might have somebody drop out there. So we'll go ahead and conclude it right now. The Vulcan Soapbox. Thanks everybody for joining on today. We had a great show. I want to give everybody a second to 15 seconds or less to just kind of go around. We'll start off with you, Patty, and just say anything you want to say, anything you want people to know. 15 seconds or less.
No, I'm really grateful for this time. I've actually learned a lot. And so yeah, I'm thankful.
Thank you very much. Karen, go ahead.
I'm thankful whenever we can fellowship and talk about some things. And I still didn't get my answer for the last question, but yeah, I had really good time.
All right. All right. Well, Crystal, go ahead. If you want to help answer and at the same time give your closing comments, please do so.
Thank you for inviting me to be on this panel again tonight. And I really have learned a whole lot, and I appreciate it because increasing your knowledge about things and being able to discuss openly, even if you don't always agree with people with different things, is a great way to grow yourself.
I definitely appreciate that. Okay, Derek, how about for yourself? You can answer Karen's question. You can always also close it out.
I'm going to echo what I said earlier, because Help the Bear just left a comment, and he says, "For it is said," that he's reading her scripture again. "For it is said, the two will become one flesh." And he says, "Note that the body is joined, but the Bible says nothing about souls being joined." That's us putting that and making it that, which is what I want my closing argument to be. We've learned today, hopefully, or at least thinks differently about it, is that tithing is not given. It is something that has been lied to us, and we don't know the scriptures, so people do it. With this soul tie, it's something that we have been lied to about, and we kind of took it and ran with it. So anything that you know or you believe, you ought to if you're a Christian, you ought to make sure that you can find it definitively in the Bible to where you don't have to add anything to it to make it right. And that's
okay, and then Christine, right now we're doing closing comments. Feel free to take a minute or so. I know you had dropped off, so you have something more you want to say. Karen wanted her question answered, and also what closing comments you have.
I don't feel like I was adding anything. The scripture said what it said. People have or take their own interpretation of scriptures.
Clearly. I'm sorry.
That's it.
Okay. Enos, what you got?
Yeah, just want to thank all our guests that came on. Thank you. I really made this show. I'm about to get on my Marvin Sapp. I don't want nobody to leave until they subscribe to the channel. I want to be able to see it. No,
I'm gonna lock the doors.
I'm gonna lock the doors. No, so yeah, I appreciate that. We we enjoy doing this. We are here to try to. I'm sorry. We are here teaching and want to empower y'all thinking, so you can be. So you don't have to depend on anybody else to give you any direction. You'll be able to assess and really vet who's telling truths versus lies. That's what we're here for. With Vulcan leading the charge, and That's it. Oh yeah, any other questions you want to show up on the show, make sure you email us at vocansoapbox@gmail.com. Thank you.
Okay, I want to thank everybody on the panel for coming on. Y'all were very helpful, and we learned a lot from your input. Whether we agree or disagree, I think just having that out there, people are able to weigh in on the conversation. Sometimes you're able to articulate things in a way somebody in the audience is not able to articulate, but they're thinking, that's what I was thinking the whole time. That's what I wanted to say. And we appreciate that. The purpose of the Vulcan Soapbox, if you don't know, in the Vulcans, you know, in the show Star Trek, which I didn't watch a lot of Star Trek, but I remember as a kid, the Vulcans, the guys with the funny little ears.
Yeah.
And they were really big on logic. They're really big on critical thinking. In John 1:1, Christ is called the Logos, the word, right? That's where we get the word logic from. We're commanded in the Bible to be reasonable. And so the purpose of this show is for us to be reasonable, for us to learn from each other, grow from each other, use critical thinking, not rely on man's traditions or what somebody said, sophistry, people's able to beguile us with words and empty philosophies and vain philosophies. You see that written in the text. We want to be able to compare truth to whatever we're hearing. And that's what the purpose of this show is. So we're not always right. If anybody has a disagreement, feel free to share it. If you have any comments or any topics you want to be discussed and you want to be a panelist on the show, send us the email about or inbox us if you're on one of our social media platforms. Again, we thank you all for coming out. Please like and subscribe on our YouTube page. That helps us. It helps us support the work we're doing. And I thank you all. And Vulcan Soapbox out.
I can't do it.
Throwing gang signs over there, Derek. What's going on?
I'm doing it. Hey, Vulcan,
I'm here to stand on my soapbox and proclaim that to the world.
On this show.
This is the hottest show on the planet right now.
What's the debate? Ain't no debate.